Hello, everybody. Good evening, good day, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. Today, we discuss anything. I will take your questions from the super chat, and you can ask me absolutely anything. So, before we begin, let's see who all is there on the live chat. Let's see. Avinash, Naganand Shenoy, Bot Gaming, Oi Oi. Pratham Sharma is back. UMX Glol Haha. Real Painter is here. Tsar. All right, sir. Scintillating Kids, Amandeep Singh Bedi, Tanmay Deshpande, GKGS1KE. Good morning. Well, good morning to you. Shreyas Sige, Namaste. Alvin Rodriguez has lost his young brother. I'm so sorry to hear this, sir. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, well, that's genuinely terrible. I'm so sorry to hear this. Uh, Condolences to you and your family, and may the gods give you the strength to, yeah, get through this. Very sorry to hear this. Naganan Shenoy, Sandoji, Adesh Shah, Alankrita Das, Bot Gaming, Scintillating Kids again, Vishnu Mohanan, Geopolitical Dubey is here from Indore. Basket Bandit is also here. Shishir Upadhyay, Adesh Shah, uh, Somi is also here. Ganapati, Critical Thinker 24, Ayush Singh, Namaste. McLevin 69 is here. Hello. Priyanka Javalia, good evening. Namaste. Deepika Mishra, hello. Richest Pakistani is here. Sharon on the drums. Gal Maidi. Advait Ashwani. Ayush Kumar Singh once again. Pranam. Animals for Laugh is here from Mumbai. Urjasvi, namaste. Rem 17291, hello. Priyanka Javalia once again, good evening. Rahul Himtani is here from Mumbai. Hello. Shashank Kaushik, namaskaram. Devanam Priya Priyadarshi is here from Odisha. Jai Jagannath, sir. Meet Mistri Pratham Sharma. Ayush Anshuman Mohapatra. Miga. Indeed, Miga. Chandru. Mr. Jam Radhe Radhe. Montu Prajapati. Isaac Newton is here with us. Animals for Laugh once again. Sharan. Amy Chloe, namaste. DJ Divine Joy. Hello. Spartan 6678906. Reddy is always ready. Good to see you, Reddy, sir. Who else do we have? Advait Ashwani, Isaac Newton once again, Mystic SK, Jai Shri Krishna, Gray from Odisha, Akhir Pasta is here from Jammu. Well, good to have you. Nagaran Chano is here from Hyderabad. Somi says, when will I take the space session? How about next week? Yeah. We can do a space session next week. Okay, let's get going from... let's get going with the questions. Okay, let's go. What are the questions in the super chats? All right, Spartan says, if the English hadn't come to India, would Marathas be the rulers of the biggest and most substantial portion of the Indian subcontinent? Maybe a stupid question, but still curious. Well, it's not a stupid question. See, the Maratha Empire had defeated the Mughal Empire, right? The Mughal Empire, which went downhill after the death of the, what's his name? Aurangzeb, right? 1707 or 1717? 1707 AD. And the Mughal Empire goes downwards, and the Maratha Empire has this big upsurge. And by the mid 1800s, the Maratha Empire controls much of the Indian subcontinent. And then there is infighting among the Marathas. And there are internal issues that cause the decline of the Maratha Empire rather rapidly. And the English obviously take advantage of that. So let's say the English weren't there in India. What would have happened? Well, maybe you would have had fragmented Maratha rule. One Maratha ruler here, one Maratha ruler there, another Maratha ruler somewhere else, that sort of thing. Because the empire was on the, there was infighting, there were issues within it. So empires typically, see, on average, an empire, if you look at the history of India, the past 2,500 years, on average, an empire or even a dynasty, it rules for about 2.5 centuries. If it's a strong kingdom or empire or dynasty, 2.5 centuries. So the Maratha Empire begins, let's say, 1750s? It would have lasted until now, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it would have, in some shape or form or something like that. 1750 plus 250 is what? 2000. Yeah. So it would possibly, in some shape or form, be in control of various parts of the Indian subcontinent. Maybe different Maratha rule. If it would not have remained united for whatever reason because of issues, then maybe you would have had Maratha rulers in different parts of the country. So yeah, it could have happened that way. But as we know, it's all hypothetical. Hypothetical because the English took over. Bhaskar Bandit says at Adi Shankaracharya's time, we discussed Buddhism was at its peak. He restored Vedic Dharma back. What was happening in Bharat in terms of culture, morals, ethics, code of conduct, etc. I am not an expert on this period of Indian history. So that's why I generally don't take history super chats, because when it comes to geopolitics, you can answer things based on patterns, based on your understanding of how the world is right now. When it comes to history, you have to be an expert in all these different specific portions and periods of history. People will ask me about various dynasties. I don't know about every dynasty. I haven't studied that. So I'm not very sure about what was the deal during Adi Shankaracharya's time. First of all, we're not quite sure when was Adi Shankaracharya's time period. Some people say it is so and so century. Some people say it's long before that. But what we know is that during his time, Buddhism was prevalent across much of India, both the Dharma. And how did Buddhism become so prevalent? It originated as this obscure little branch of Dharma. That's how Buddhism, originated. It is our Emperor Ashok who made it so prominent. So, without Ashok's patronage, Buddhism would have remained obscure, but he made it very prominent for political reasons. And that's why it became so widespread across the subcontinent and beyond. And Adi Shankaracharya is the person who brought mainstream dharma back into the subcontinent, and uh, his life's work was to ensure the resurgence and dominance once again of the mainstream Hindu dharma. So, what was happening in Bharat in terms of cultural, etc., it was all Buddhist. That's what I can tell you. But I am not an expert in this particular period of history, uh, so I can't tell you in detail. Bhaskar Bandit says, how did China get southern Mongolia, Manchuria, East Turkestan without resistance from the big powers? Most never heard of the latter two, which is Manchuria and East Turkestan, only now on social media. Well, that's an interesting question. See, first of all, we have to understand the big powers. Who are the big powers we're talking about? If we're talking about the early part of the 20th century, the big powers are the UK, the British Empire. If you're talking about, let's say, 1900, around that time, the biggest power is the British Empire. Then you have Russia, which is also a major Eurasian power. China is not in good shape, and the United States hasn't yet emerged yet as a great power. About 1950, you have the UK has kind of lost ground significantly. It's on the verge of becoming a second-rate world power. The US and the USSR are the two great powers, and China is still just about emerging from civil war. That's 1950. So, if you look at Eurasia, the region that we're talking about, let's go to the map. Okay, let's go to the map and understand which regions we're discussing. Excuse me. See, when we talk about East Turkestan, it is what the Chinese currently call Xinjiang. Okay, north of Tibet. That is East Turkestan. If you talk about southern Mongolia, excuse me, uh, southern Mongolia is pretty self-evident. It is the southern. It is south of what is the current present-day nation state of Mongolia. It is almost as large as present-day Mongolia, and it has been absorbed by China. So that is southern Mongolia. Excuse me. The Chinese call it East Mongolia. And when it comes to Manchuria, it is this big region north of the Korean Peninsula and east of Beijing. And the capital, excuse me, So it's the northeast of China essentially. So that is Manchuria. So what is the deal? How did China acquire these territories? How did China become so large? So we have to go back a couple of centuries, maybe more than a couple of centuries, when it comes to Inner Mongolia. The Chinese call it Inner Mongolia. We can call it Southern Mongolia. So China was conquered by the Mongols. China was conquered by the great Shri Chinggis Khan in the 1200s, 1220-ish onwards, kind of, or maybe slightly before that. You can look up the exact dates around that time. So China was conquered by Genghis Khan, and Genghis Khan's grandson Kublai Khan became the ruler of China, the emperor of China, and he founded what's called the Yuan dynasty, which was a conquest dynasty, which is a Mongol dynasty that conquered and ruled China. And eventually, the Chinese now today claim the Yuan dynasty as a Chinese dynasty, and they claim that whatever the Yuan dynasty had conquered and possessed is Chinese territory. So that's how they claimed Tibet. That's how they claimed Xinjiang. That's how they claimed Southern Mongolia or Inner Mongolia. But you can claim everything in the world. That makes no difference unless you have the capacity, the wherewithal to grab those territories and hold on to them. So after the fall of the Yuan dynasty, we had other dynasties. Eventually, we have the Qing dynasty, which is a Manchu origin dynasty, which ended in what, 1910 or around that time. So the Qing dynasty came from Manchuria, right? It was a Manchu origin dynasty, and it, at various points in time, it ruled over parts of southern Mongolia and East Turkestan. In the 1850s, you had this big revolts in East Turkestan, the Hui rebellion, the Dongguan rebellion, etc. But the Chinese were able to put those down. These were Islamic rebellions against China, and because the Chinese were able to put those down and hold on to the territories, that those territories eventually became part of China. After the communists won in 1949, 1950, they were able to grab these territories and hold on to them. At that time, there was no resistance to these things from the great powers like the USSR or the US or anybody else, because they were interested in other things at the time. They were preoccupied with other things. And the US never has had a presence all this way deep into Eurasia. The USSR certainly it does. So after the end of the Second World War, 1945, the Soviets actually could have taken Manchuria, but they allowed the Chinese to take Manchuria. Because see, Manchuria was under Japanese occupation from the 1930s, mid 30s or early 30s onwards. Manchukuo was this puppet state the Japanese had established in Manchuria, and then the Soviets were able to defeat that, and they were able to uh, take possession of various parts of Manchuria, and they could have taken the whole of Manchuria if they wanted, but they gave it as a brotherly gesture to the Chinese Communist Party. So that's how the Chinese got Manchuria. That's how they got southern Mongolia. They got East Turkestan also. They were able to get these territories because they were able to send their armies, their troops over there, and hold those territories. Making claims on the map makes no difference in the world. And similarly, when it comes to Tibet, they were able to send troops and occupy Tibet physically with the help of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Yeah. So that's how the Chinese got it, and nobody else resisted. We did not resist when they took Tibet. We helped the Chinese. Strange. Basket Bandit says, what's the present day barrier humans face from reaching Mars in person? Is it limited to space radiation? Can't a combo of rare earths help contain? I'm not sure how do rare earths help contain space radiation. Rare earths and space radiation, there's no connection. Uh, if you see, radiation is, it's either the solar wind, it's cosmic rays, it is gamma rays, etc. All these harmful particles and photons that can damage DNA, cause cancer, do all kinds of nasty things to human biology. That's radiation, right? So rare earths have nothing to do with radiation. If you want to stop radiation from entering a spacecraft, you've got to shield it. See, if there's a, let's say there is a gamma ray source in this room, in the room that I am, then in order for me to be protected from that, shielded from that, I will need something thick, a thick metal, thick substance that will be able to stop the gamma rays. So ideally, it's lead shielding. But obviously, in space, when you're traveling across space, you don't really come across very energetic gamma rays. You come across other kinds of radiation, like the solar wind, and cosmic rays, including ultra high energy cosmic rays, UHECRs, etc. So you need your spacecraft to be suitably shielded, and you don't need lead for that. Um, I mean, so when we are when you have space when you have astronauts in low earth orbit, let's say on the international space station, or when you have astronauts who go to the moon, they do encounter radiation. Sometimes you will have an astronaut whose eyes are closed, and a cosmic ray photon or cosmic ray particle is going to hit their retina, and with their eyes closed they will see a flash. That sort of thing happens, right? So there's gonna be this need to have adequate shielding for human beings when we send them to Mars or any other part of the solar system that's beyond the Earth orbit, because over here we have a very strong magnetic field, a reasonably strong magnetic field that deflects all these dangerous particles away from the surface of the Earth. But if we go into space, that's not the case. So that's one of the barriers that we will be careful about. Humans should not, by the time they reach Mars in like 8, 9, 10 months, they should not have cancer because of exposure to radiation, various kinds of radiation. That's one thing. Um, what's the other barrier? Nothing really. Nothing really. We have rockets of various kinds. All we need to do is to have a space capsule in which you can keep a human being or multiple human beings safely and provide them with enough food, water, and oxygen to make the journey to Mars and hopefully come back. Some people have even touted that we can have people go on one-way journeys to Mars for whatever reason. Ideally, want people to go and return. And if you go to Mars and if you land there, you should be able to spend some time there and return safely. So it's pretty complicated. The time window is once in 28, 29 months or whatever it is, okay, when the planets align in the right way. And then it takes about roughly 8, 9 months, maybe 10 months to reach Mars if you are in the time window based on the alignments of the planets. So you need to have a spacecraft that's powerful enough to send humans there, to send a spacecraft there. The spacecraft should be able to make a soft landing on Mars, which is pretty difficult because Mars is a different kind of planet. It doesn't have the kind of atmosphere we have here. It's got a much thinner atmosphere. So you're going to be able to land there softly in a controlled manner. Then you should be able to spend some time there, maybe 3 days, maybe 1 week, whatever it is, maybe 3 months, whatever you want. Then you should be able to take off from Mars once again and escape the gravitational pull of Mars and then return to Earth. So it's pretty complex. And the technology more or less exists today. But is it reliable? Is it foolproof? Is it fail proof? If we attempt 100 launches, how many will succeed? Even if it's 90% success rate, it's not good enough, right? We want 99.9% success rate. Only then will we be willing to risk human beings going to Mars or going for such missions. But I'll tell you what, when various militaries were developing aircraft carriers, okay, when you had aircraft taking off from ships and landing on ships, the mortality rates initially were very high, and that was tolerable at the time because that was the only way to make progress. So maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of pilots died in this botched landings, etc., on aircraft carriers until the entire thing was perfected. So initially there's gonna be casualties, and if humanity doesn't have the guts to take that, then probably we will not become a spacefaring civilization. So these are the various barriers that humans face, that we face reaching Mars. And what's the other barrier? It's very expensive, really, really expensive. Unless you have massive rocket like what Elon Musk is developing, Starship, SpaceX, right? The kind of rocket that can launch maybe 100 people at a time to Mars. So if you have that sort of economy of scale, then it becomes cheaper, and especially when you have reusable rocket booster technology, etc. So yeah, Elon Musk is solving the big problems, and that will most likely mean that the US will lead the world in the space race and in the race to reach Mars. Basket Bandit says, can climate change actually help Russian economy given the vast land mass for agriculture and permafrost defreezing that might have minerals underneath? Okay, could global warming help the Russian economy given the vast land mass for agriculture? Yeah, if more of your land thaws and becomes available for agriculture, it can certainly help your economy. See, first of all, Russia is completely self-sufficient in terms of agriculture, right? And it has an agricultural surplus, which it most likely exports to various nations. I have not looked into the details. So, if it's able to, free up more land, which becomes agriculturally viable, then I suppose it could export more agricultural produce to various nations, which could obviously help its economy. Once again, if you have permafrost defreezing, thawing, and you are able to access more minerals that way, well, yeah, it can certainly help your economy. But see, climate change is a slow process. Uh, we're expecting maybe 2-3 degrees of change, increase, a couple of degrees of increase this century. How much will it free up? And even if you see, you can prospect for minerals even on frozen land where you have permafrost that never thaws. And if you discover that there are minerals there, you can drill through the permafrost too. So when it comes to minerals, it's not going to be an issue. The Russians know how to drill in totally frozen land. So when it comes to minerals, whether it's frozen or it's not frozen, if the Russians find minerals, oil, whatever there, they're going to exploit that. That's not going to prevent. No, the land being frozen is not going to prevent the Russians from doing something. It's only for agriculture that it could free up some more land. But how much more land will it free up? I'm not sure if it's going to be very substantial. And of course, there's going to be some dangers of permafrost thawing, because see, when you have ground that's been frozen for 10,000 years and now it thaws, it's going to throw up ancient microorganisms and God knows what else, viruses, bacteria. So that could actually have a pretty dangerous effect on the environment and on humans more specifically. So yeah, the climate change, maybe in 50 years, 100 years, it will have the effect of freeing up much more territory for significantly more territory for agriculture. But when it comes to minerals, doesn't really matter. Basket Bandit says, is Gandhar called the graveyard of civilizations due to geography and in popular folklore sort of cursed landmass which will always face warfare or turmoil? Well, I don't know about folklore. It is said that what Gandhar was it cursed during the Mahabharata times? Did Gandhari curse her brother Shakuri because he got her sons involved in all kinds of nasty stuff? Was it like that? I'm not sure. See, I don't know about the the folklore part. I'm not saying Mahabharata is mythology. Mahabharata is history. But whether he was cursed, whether the land was cursed, I'm not really sure about those uh, those aspects. Why is Gandhar called the graveyard of civilizations? See, we don't call Gandhar the graveyard of civilizations. We call Afghanistan the graveyard of civilizations. And it's not called the graveyard of civilizations. It's called the graveyard of empires. Okay. So which empires are we referring to? Well, some people like to backdate all the way to Alexander's time. Did Alexander really pass through Gandhar? He passed through Persia. Did he go all the way north into Gandhar? Maybe to some extent. He may have gone into what is now called Afghanistan to some extent. He married this this lady called Roxana, right? Roxana. Was she from Gandhar? Was she Persian? Probably Gandhar. Um, so he did conquer some parts of Gandhar, it looks like. But did the people of Gandhar throw him out? Did they defeat him and make him withdraw? Not quite. It was his defeat in India that made him withdraw. So you can't say that Afghanistan was the graveyard of the Macedonian Empire. It wasn't. Of Alexander's empire, it wasn't. So which empires has Gandhar been the graveyard of? Well, Chinggis Khan passed through Gandhar on his way to destroying Khwarazm, teaching the Khwarezmians a lesson. Chinggis Khan passed through Gandhar without any issue. He returned also through Gandhar. He did a diversion south all the way to the west bank of the Indus, chasing Jalaluddin the coward, and then went back northwards through Gandhar and then eastwards back into a reconquest of China. So Gandhar did not become the graveyard of the Mongol Empire, not at all. Which empire? So, so Gandhar became the graveyard of what? The British Empire. The British fought the Afghans and did not do well. So yeah, there is that. And when it comes to another aspect of Gandhar's history, the Turks conquered Gandhar and they turned it into Afghanistan. So Gandhar was conquered and culturally destroyed. So it's not really that much of a graveyard of empires, is it? So the British fared poorly against the Afghans. Yes, no question about that. The Soviets tried to invade Afghanistan. They failed, not because of the resilience to some extent because of the resilience of the Afghans, but actually because of the arms, ammunition, training, etc., given by the Americans via Pakistan. So you know, and recently the Americans occupied Afghanistan for 20 years, and they left of their own volition. Right? They were not defeated. So you can make any kind of mythology up about a region, but the truth is that Gandhar was Indian, and it was smashed. Its culture was destroyed, and it was turned into Afghanistan. Its ethnicity was diluted. All kinds of Turkic people came and settled in Gandhar. So the history is actually quite tragic. Actually, Bhaskar Bandit says humans are incredibly inherently violent with animal-like instincts. Well, we are technically animals, aren't we? We belong to the family of animals. So we're going to have those instincts. The instincts that chimpanzees have, we share those instincts that gorillas and bonobos and orangutans have and gibbons have. We share those instincts, no question about that. The instincts that wolves and cats have, those instincts also we share, and so much more. So look, we are human beings. We are a different species, but we are part of the animal family. Okay, so humans are inherently violent with animal-like instincts, of course. Then, by definition, achieving Kardashev type 1 scale impossible for humanity, let alone 2 or 3. Why is it impossible? Why is it impossible? Just because we have certain instincts doesn't make it impossible. No, absolutely not. For humanity to achieve Kardashev type 1 civilization status, what will it mean? First of all, what is the Kardashev scale? So if you look at my YouTube channel and you search for Kardashev in the search box, you will find multiple video clips of me answering the same question over and over. What is the Kardashev scale and all that? Where do we stand on the scale, etc.? The Kardashev scale, if you are a type 1 civilization, it means that you are able to harness the entire energy output of your home planet. All the energy output of your home planet, you're able to harness and control it. So we obviously aren't able to harness and control the energy output of our planet. We can't. There's so much wind energy that completely is wasted, right? Essentially, you can call it waste because we don't harness it. There's so much wave energy, waves, ocean waves, etc. That energy we don't harness it at all. Most of the rivers, we don't tap the hydroelectric potential of those rivers. We aren't able to tap into the energy of tectonic activity, of earthquakes, etc. So much more. So we are definitely not a type 1 civilization. Maybe some people say that we are zero point 0.7 or something. I'm not sure about even 0.7. I would say that if you can't tap even 10% of the wind energy and wave energy, then you are not even zero point 0.3. So we are way below type 1 status. But humanity can achieve type 1 status. It's certainly possible. There is nothing in the laws of physics that prevents is that is capable of preventing us from achieving type 1 status. What we need to do to achieve that? First of all, we will have to stop fighting among each other. So that's where Bhaskar Bandit's point comes in, that we are inherently violent. It's not about animal-like instincts that is the problem. Those instincts are fine. We have tribalistic instincts. We band into small groups Now it's called nations. In the past, it was called something else: empires, kingdoms. In the future, you may have something else: clans, tribes, whatever. And we fight each other. All our energy is spent doing all these things. Within India, most of the energy, economic energy, other energy of India is spent fighting each other, arguing all the time, fighting 3 million elections every 10 years, and God knows what. So all of our energy is dissipated within. So, what will it take for humanity to break free of all of this and achieve Type 1 status? We're going to have need a one world government for that to happen, which is actually a very scary prospect. But yeah, it certainly can happen. It certainly can happen. So, I don't think it's impossible. I think it is. I think it's very hard to achieve, but it's definitely not impossible. Why do I say it's not impossible? Impossible. I say this because there is nothing in the laws of physics that makes it impossible. It's just if we can surpass and transcend certain issues that we have with ourselves, we can do it. But like I say, easier said than done. Bhaskar Bandit says best way to spend weekends is watching you. Thank you, sir. uh, Lots of love and support. We'll never stop raising our standards. Looking forward to soft copies of your book in the future. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your support, your viewership, all of you. So thank you very much. And to you, sir, Bhaskar Bandit. Thank you. Ganapati says, was the attack by the Afghan migrant in Washington a false flag attack? Trump is using that as an excuse to end all third world immigration. Well, look, I don't know. Is it possible? It's possible, but was it a false flag attack? I am not in a position to know that. Right. It's possible that it may have been a false flag attack. Why is it possible now? So this Afghan gentleman who carried out this Afghan migrant, not gentleman, he carried out this attack, right? What was his background like? He was trained by the Americans. He was an Afghan national. He was trained by the Americans. He had links to the ISI. So that raises very big, very loud red flags clearly, right? So, so he's been trained by the Americans. He has links to Pakistan. He has links to the ISI, and he has been brought into the US. He's been given residence in the US for whatever reason, and then he goes ahead and does this terror attack. So, if he was controlled by, let's say, US intelligence services in the past, what is there anything to prevent him still being controlled in some way by US intelligence agencies? Nothing, right? So it's possible that somebody within the US intelligence, potentially, possibly, hypothetically, could have used him as a pawn to create this situation, which would give Trump the excuse to end third world migration, whatever. It is possible. But do we have evidence? We don't have evidence. So I can't say yes or no. I can only say it's possible. Tanmay Deshpande says, big fan, thank you. Santaji and Dhanaji were ruthless Maratha warriors, crucial to the 27-year war against the Mughals. They are not known and deserve spotlight. Can you Google it if possible for others as well? Okay, let's Google it because I haven't studied Maratha history in any significant detail, so I myself won't be able to tell you, but let's see. Santaji Dhanaji. Santaji Dhanaji. Santaji and Dhanaji were two of the most important Maratha generals who fought against the Mughal Empire in the late 17th century. Santaji Ghurpade was known for his strict discipline and fearsome military tactics, while Dhanaji Yadav was more lenient with his troops but equally effective, particularly in campaigns against Mughal incursions into Maharashtra and Karnataka. Together, they are credited with helping the Maratha Empire survive after the death of Sambhaji Maharaj and preventing its defeat by the Mughals. Santaji Ghurpade, military style, strict disciplinarian, known for his harshness but also his strategic brilliance. Key achievements: attacked Mughal general Sheikh Nizam and captured his army in 1689, led daring raids and was known to have inflicted significant defeats on many top Mughal generals. His reputation was so fearsome that Mughal records noted facing him often meant defeat or capture. Challenges: his strict nature sometimes caused friction with other Maratha leaders, even within his own regiment. Dhanaji Jadhav, military style, had a more lax approach to his troops, which made him popular with them, but he was still a successful commander. Key achievements: fought again alongside Santaji in major campaigns, including the defeat of Sheikh Nizam in 1689 and preventing Mughal advances into Karnataka, served as the Maratha Senapati, commander in chief, and played a pivotal role in expanding Maratha influence in Gujarat. His tactical maneuvering was kept crucial in halting Mughal incursions into Maratha territory. Combined impact. Together, Santaji and Dhanaji led successful campaigns that kept the Maratha Empire from collapsing during a crucial period. Their combined strength and tactical prowess were also were instrumental in the Maratha resistance against the Mughals. They are considered two of the most of the foremost Maratha generals before the Peshwa era. All right, very interesting, very very important generals, both of them, and clearly they were uh, their efforts were crucial to the Maratha Empire, to the Marathas resisting uh, the Mughal invaders, occupiers of India. Outstanding. Okay, UMXG, etc. says, how did the Scandinavians become so rich, historically poor? I think you asked me this question yesterday also, right? How did Scandinavia become so rich? Is it really very rich? I think it's today it is reasonably rich. Okay, you see, overall, Europe was never dirt poor. Okay, there were times, maybe 1,000 years ago, when the overall GDP of Europe was much lower than what it is today. GDP per capita, let's say. But Scandinavia was home to the Vikings, wasn't it? Scandinavia is where the Vikings emerged from, and they were very successful, very fearsome warriors, and they ruled various parts of Western Europe for at least a couple of centuries. They did incessant raids into the UK, what is today the UK. They took a lot of plunder from there, so they became pretty rich actually. Then they were converted to Christianity, and they became a Christian region, but they were never dirt poor or historically poor as such, right? Um, and overall, that's the thing. Now, how did this happen? Look, I haven't studied their history in great detail, so I won't be able to tell you. Uh, you asked, I think it was you who asked me the same question yesterday also. Um, I don't know the specifics. I haven't looked into the history of the Scandinavian nations, but what what are their sources of income, trade, etc.? What do they export? It's either fisheries, it's either oil and gas, it's something or the other. Can't tell you in detail right now. Okay, James says, would you like it better if the French colonized you? Maybe they offered you a sweeter language and you would eat a croissant for breakfast. Well, peut-être the French would have been better than the accursed the beefsteak. No, the roast beef, les roast beef. So the British like to call the French the frogs for whatever reason, and the French like to call the British les roast beef because the British like to eat roast beef. So les roast beef. And the British and the French have this historical 1,000-year animosity towards each other. Dates back to the year, at least the year 1066 AD, when this guy, what's his name? Guillaume le Bâtard, William the Bastard. He ended up conquering England, right? And from then onwards, he was known as William the Conqueror. And the British and the English and the French have hated each other for 1,000 years, and they've fought each other so many times. Battle of Agincourt and so much more. The 100-Year War. The British burned that girl alive. She was 16. What? Jeanne d'Arc, Joan of Arc, right? And so on. See, at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, it would not have mattered who colonized us. I would like it better if none of you barbarians had colonized us, right? Because the French, they were no better than the English. You had this guy called Dupleix, right? Dupleix, Gupleix, who was the governor general of whatever part of some parts of southern India. And he destroyed temples and built churches on top of them. So the French were no better than the British. If the French colonized us, we would be speaking in French today, yes? What difference does it make? One foreign language, another foreign language. And we would perhaps eat croissant for breakfast, but what difference does it make? So I would like it better if nobody had colonized us, but that's all wishful thinking. What's happened has happened. and we Indians need to decolonize, which we aren't doing right now for a variety of reasons. So the answer is no, it makes no difference. Whether it's the British, if it's the French, Portuguese, the Portuguese would have made no difference. It would have been the same thing. Ganapati says, what has happened to Imran Khan, alive or dead? You see, I can answer this question only if I have recently been to Pakistan, to whatever place he is being held, right? I can only answer the question if I have been there. Now, there are all these Indian YouTubers who are geopolitical analysts and experts who are giving all kinds of fantastic insights into what's happened to Imran Khan. How do they know what's happened? Oh, I have sources in Pakistan. Good for you, sir. I have no sources in Pakistan. I am not in connection with any Pakistani. So, what's happened to Imran Khan, alive or dead? I can tell you, we don't know what's happened to him. There's been a long period of time since no one has heard from him. Apparently, his sisters are not being allowed to visit him. He has a couple of sisters, I believe, uh, probably older than him, and they obviously will want to be able to visit him from time to time because their brother, their family member, is confined illegally in prison. But at least, I don't know, 30, 40 days they have not been allowed to see him. So there's been silence about Imran Khan. So it looks like something may have happened. That's why there are all these speculations that are swirling on social media and mainstream media as well. But what's happened, I don't know. Looks like something may have happened. Maybe they may have killed him off, but we don't have evidence thus far. Critical thinker says right wing, left wing, far right, far left in politics. What's the question? Are you saying where do I stand? Are you saying where should everybody stand? What are you asking me? Where do I stand? If you're asking me, I am definitely right of center. I'm not a centrist. You've got to take a stand somewhere in life, right? So I'm not a centrist. I'm definitely not a lefty. I'll be somewhere on the right. Far right, moderate right, I don't know. You guys decide. I'm definitely somewhere on the right. Dark Knight says the US flag is nearly identical to the East India Company flag. The deep state is basically the inheritors of the East India Company's loot, isn't it? They likely are the ones who own the Federal Reserve too. The US flag in the East India Company flag. Let's take a look. US flag. Okay, let's just look for the East India Company flag. East India Company flag. What's it look like? Ooh, well. Very interesting. Yes, isn't it? Very interesting. The flag of the East India Company. So you replace the Union Jack with the 50 stars, and there you have the US flag, which is very interesting, right? It's pretty similar. It's clearly the same pattern. Now, is the deep state the inheritors of the East India Company's loot? What we can say for sure is this: the US is a continuation of the British Empire. The US has carried the mantle forward, the flag forward, the torch forward. In 1944-45, all that happened was that the center of power shifted westwards from London, UK to Washington, DC, District Columbia. That's all. But the same entity has continued. So, so the British Empire still exists. It's been augmented vastly, and it's now called the US Empire. It's called the rules-based world order, or whatever the latest thing the Americans call the thing. So the United States is the inheritor. It's the continuation of the British Empire. Now, when it comes to the British Empire, there's a small number of people who controlled it. I suppose they still control whatever happens in the US Empire, right? Or their descendants control it. Their inheritors, the ones who took forward the legacy. So it's not about the loot. It's not about the loot. Please understand. It's not about the loot. All the money they plundered from India, it's not sitting somewhere in some dark room. It was used to create things. Money is fuel. Gold is fuel. You spend it to create things, to purchase things. The British use all that money to create this gigantic global empire, right? To create an empire that spans the world, you have to set up ports, you have to build hundreds, maybe thousands of ships, you have to conscript hundreds of thousands of soldiers, you have to buy allegiances in 58 different countries, you have to pay off the local warlords. That's how you build an empire. To do that, you have to burn something, you have to burn fuel, which is money. But by doing that, you acquire more power, you acquire more resources. So by spending, let's say, x amount of gold, you may get three times that, five times that. So that's what the British did. All that money that's stole from India, plundered from India, it's not sitting in some dark room somewhere. It's all been spread across the world to create the British Empire, which eventually became the US Empire, and the US has augmented it vastly. And yeah, so that's the deal. That's the deal about the deep state. A small number of men, like Chamat Palihapitiya would say, it's about 150 men, only men who control what happens in the entire world, and they don't want themselves to be known, and they most likely own the Federal Reserve. Yes. Ganapati says, when and why did the Brahmins become vegetarian? Okay, when and why did the Brahmins become vegetarian? If you study the Rig Veda, nobody is vegetarian. All the Rig Veda says is that you may not eat beef. You cannot kill cows. It doesn't talk about eating cows. It says you cannot kill cows. Anyone who kills cows will be given the harshest of punishments. So in the Rig Veda, it says you can't kill humans unless they are nasty people or whatever. Otherwise, you can't kill humans, and you can't kill cows, and you can't kill horses unless you are a Chakravarti Samrat who is doing the Ashwamedha Yagna. In that case, you may sacrifice the horse, Ashwamedha Yagna. So in the Rig Veda, nobody is vegetarian. That is very clear, and you can't challenge that. Go to the original source and read it, and then try to challenge what I'm saying. You can't. So no one was vegetarian during the Rig Vedic time. Then during the Atharva Veda, Yajur, etc., you will have lists of animals that can't be killed. But even then, other animals could be eaten. So what happened? How did large portions of India become vegetarian? What happened? See, the advent of Buddhism. Buddhism was this obscure fringe religious path that had emerged sometime maybe 2500 years ago. And it was going nowhere. But this guy, our great emperor Ashok, for political reasons, decided to bring Buddhism mainstream. And he propagated Buddhism far and wide, not just within the subcontinent, but beyond. So overnight, within a few decades during Ashok's time and afterwards, Buddhism became like a global phenomenon because of the state patronage, imperial patronage given by Ashok. Otherwise, Buddhism would probably have gone the same way as the Ajivikas. But Ashok decided to suppress the Ajivikas and promote Buddhism. So Buddhism becomes a big deal, and the Buddhists go after all other paths of Hindu Dharma, of Dharma. Everything is inferior. We are the best. Our path is the best. You Brahmins, you do yagnas, you do these yagnas and you sacrifice animals, you are evil. Buddhism is all about compassion, blah, blah, blah. And that's why Buddhism became prevalent across India. All across India. So because of that, Brahmins, who were now being accused of being animal killers, they had to make a tactical decision. The tactical decision was, we will become even more extreme than you Buddhists. You Buddhists still eat animals sometimes. We're going to go full veg. And that's how they became vegetarian. And that's how all these vegetarian doctrines come into the play and become more prevalent. And then now you have plenty of Hindus who don't eat meat at all. So it's a matter of choice. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's entirely your choice. But this is how it happened. It's because of the pressure applied by the Buddhists that Brahmins had to make this tactical choice to become completely vegetarian. VSVS says, what's your opinion on the rule of Gaddafi? Was it barbaric or actually good for his people? Why didn't America take advantage of Libya after 2011? What do you mean by take advantage of Libya? I mean, what do you want the Americans to do to Libya? How do you take advantage of Libya? What you want to do is, if you have a guy who's ruling this country and he is opposed to you, you get rid of him. Then you install some kind of third rate puppet government, doesn't matter. And ensure that whatever oil, gas, or resources exist in Libya, those flow into your lap. That's all you do. And did the Americans not ensure this happens? Of course, they ensured this happens. So if you mean that as taking advantage of Libya, they did that. Now, what's my opinion on the rule of Gaddafi? Gaddafi was a good ruler for his people. Of course, he would have oppressed some people in his country. Show me a country where there's no oppression. Look at the United States of America. Have you read the history of the United States of America? You think they have been less oppressive than Libya? Please do some actual studying. If you think that the US is a super benevolent country and they are far better than the Libya or Iraq during Saddam Hussein, do you have any idea of the ethnic cleansing that's happened in the US, of the genocide that's happened in the US, of the slavery of people that's happened in the US, of the racial segregation that's happened in the US? You have no idea, right? So let's not. So now, when it comes to Gaddafi, obviously he would have oppressed some people. Anyone who stands against him, he would have dealt with them in the appropriate fashion. Let's say he would have done that for sure. But how was life during Gaddafi's rule in Libya? If you were an ordinary citizen of Libya who did not go and shout against Gaddafi, life would have been stable. Life would have been reasonably prosperous for you. Your education, your children's education was taken care of. I believe healthcare was free. Education was free. There was law and order. There was very little crime. Yeah, of course, you were not allowed to question Gaddafi or protest against him. If you did that, well, don't say we didn't warn you. But as long as you behaved the same way you behave in China, and you don't shout against Xi Jinping, as long as you did those things, life was good, right? So I don't. Gaddafi, was he barbaric? Absolutely not. He was good for his people, those who stood with him, and most people stood with him. Why would they not? But the problem is that just like Cuba, he opposed the US. How did he oppose the US? He wanted to set up an African currency backed by gold. That's number one. And number two, he chose to sell oil the to whoever he wanted and not go by American diktats. That made him very nasty, very bad, very naughty boy. And that's why he had to be taken care of. And he was. That's what happens. And there was this meeting of the Organization of Islamic Countries, OIC. Okay. And you had all these various Arab leaders who were sitting there, and Gaddafi is giving a speech, and he's saying the Americans are coming after me, but what do you people think? They're not going to come after you someday? And you had Bashar al-Assad sitting there and smiling, kind of laughing at Gaddafi. Well, where is Bashar al-Assad today? Where is he today? Gaddafi was right. Right. Critical thinker says, when black hole evaporates, what happens to the information that fell into it? Does quantum information get destroyed? Please explain how black holes die. Okay. What do we mean by black holes evaporate, first of all, right? This term is used by physicists. Black hole evaporation. What is black hole made of? Water? Are black holes made of water? Do they evaporate? What's the deal? See, there's a phenomenon called Hawking radiation. We see, most people think of black holes as this giant cosmic vacuum cleaners that suck everything inside, right? If there's a black hole passing near you, it's going to suck you in. That's what you imagine. But that's not quite the case. Black holes are simply pure mass, essentially. Pure mass with perhaps, yeah, they can have charge and angular momentum, but that's all it is. So a black hole has only three properties that you can see from the outside. It has mass, it has charge, it has angular momentum. It may or may not have charge, but most, observable black holes will have some charge because they've absorbed stuff, right, which will have charge. So that's what a black hole is, and it doesn't necessarily try and suck everything in. Now, Stephen Hawking, in the 1960s, I believe, he discovered through purely mathematical calculations, semi-classical calculations, not purely quantum calculation, but semi-classical calculations, he discovered that black holes actually have a temperature. Black holes have a temperature. They have entropy. The entropy is proportional to the surface area. Entropy is the measure of disorder of any system. So black holes have entropy. The entropy part came from Bekenstein, I think. But Hawking discovered that black holes have temperature. Now, if something has temperature, it radiates. Any object that has a temperature radiates something or the other. It either radiates waves, infrared radiation, which is just photons, or it radiates particles. So Hawking was able to demonstrate mathematically that black holes radiate, and he was able to calculate the rate at which a black hole will radiate based on its mass. So from the mass of a black hole, and it's, if you know the mass, you know its radius, 2 mg by c squared. 2 mg by c squared. G is the large G, that's Newton's gravitational constant. M is the mass. C is the speed of light. So the Schwarzschild radius of a black hole is 2 mg by c squared. Now, if you know the mass, you know the radius. If you know the mass and the radius, you're going to know the temperature of the black hole. Temperature in degrees Kelvin, not degrees Kelvin, in Kelvin. The temperature in Kelvin, which is, you can convert that to Celsius. And based on that, you can calculate the rate at which the black hole is radiating mass energy, mass/energy. So it's the rate at which the black hole is losing mass, and that's what we call Hawking radiation, which is also called black hole evaporation. Now, when a black hole evaporates, loses mass, what does it radiate? It radiates whatever. And the thing about Hawking radiation and temperature is that the larger a black hole is, the colder it gets. And the smaller a black hole is, the hotter it gets. So if a black hole becomes smaller, it gets hotter, which means it radiates more, which makes it smaller even faster, which makes it even hotter, which makes it smaller even faster. So the end stage of a black hole's life is an explosive explosion. Very funny. Okay, it's an explosion. So black holes die with a bang, if they do die eventually, right? So that's the deal about Hawking radiation. What is this radiation like? It's pure black body radiation. Okay, it's got a pure black body spectrum, completely random, and it can be photons, it can be neutrinos, it can be protons, antiprotons, whatever. All kinds of particles just are spewed out by the black hole. If it's a very cold black hole, it's gonna radiate either photons or even gravitons if gravitons exist. So now that we understood what is black hole radiation, etc., what happens to information that fell into it? We don't quite know. See, information, what's information? Let's say a photon is absorbed by the black hole. The photon contains information. It contains polarization information. Photons have polarization. So what happened to that information? We don't know. Once you cross the event horizon, we don't quite know what happens inside. Right? And we don't even know if there's a real singularity at the heart of the black hole. It is said that the information paradox has been resolved these days. I'm not quite sure about that. But does this quantum information get destroyed? Does it get scrambled? See, eventually information all comes out, but it may come out in a different shape and form. So does it get destroyed entirely? The polarization of a photon, will we be able to recover that, or does it get scrambled? Do we need some kind of algorithm to unscramble it? I think we are not quite sure yet about what happens to the quantum information. Is information destroyed? I don't think information is destroyed, but it does get scrambled or jumbled and converted into some other shape or form of information. But everything does come out eventually. So that overall is the deal. And I hope that explains how black holes die. Black holes can die. But there are some black holes, like supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies, that are so large that their lifetime is longer than the current age of the universe, which is paradoxical, but it means that they will live a very, very long time. Game Changer says, why is India backward in innovation and invention than Western countries? How will the system be improved? Why is India backward in innovation and invention? First, number one, causative factor. The third-rate, rotten education system of India. Okay, the Indian education system is rotten to the core. It emphasizes, when you are a student, it emphasizes learning three languages. So let's say you have like five, six. How many subjects do you have in high school in a year? Let's say you have seven subjects that you have to study, or eight subjects. Out of this, three are going to be languages. You're going to have to study Hindi, you're going to have to study the local language, and you have to study English if you want to have a decent chance in life. So, out of those eight subjects, three are languages. You're wasting your time learning three languages. Second, all the other stuff you have to memorize, memorize, memorize. All you are learning in the Indian education system is how to pass exams. You're not actually learning any new knowledge. The moment your exam is done, you're going to clear your mind and you're going to forget everything. That's what happens to everybody. And then there is this emphasis on rote memorization, ratta marna, rote memorization. There's no emphasis on actually understanding the concepts, understanding cause and effect, nothing. When they teach you history, memorize dates, 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 dates. Who the hell cares about your goddamn dates? You to understand causality. But no, there is no emphasis on critical thinking, on understanding what's right, what's wrong, how to differentiate right from wrong. None of this. And then when it comes to the sciences, yeah, when it comes to the sciences, where is the focus on research and development? Research. Where is the focus on research? Even at the university level, even at the IIT level, what research is happening in India? Nothing. You go to the, see, I am not going to take any names of any institutions, but go to X or Y or Z IIT. Go to the labs. If you go to one of the top IITs in the country, okay, I'm not saying which one, anyone, any of the top IITs in the country, you go to the conference room or that sort of thing, you will see it's very well equipped, latest modern projectors and uh, LCDs, LED screens and whatnot, very well equipped. You go to the washroom, beautiful crore rupee washroom. You go to the lab, the equipment is going to be 20, 30 years old. So that's the kind of priorities your bureaucrats have who are running the show. And what's the quality of your teachers? Most of them are mediocre. Most of the professors, they have been promoted through internal politicking. So how are you going to have innovation, invention, etc.? And when it comes, so that's about the education system, rotten to the core. Your new education policy is not going to solve any of the problems. It's actually introducing more problems, it looks like, from what I've seen, from the little that I've seen. That's the education system. Now, when it comes to industry, industry, what is the innovation in industry? What percentage of industry budget is spent on R&D, research and development? Less than 1%. In other nations, like it's like 2.5, 3, 4, 5%. India, it's less than 1%. So first of all, you have students who are coming out of the education system without anything in their mind, who have been mentally lobotomized, who are incapable of learning, who have no skills. Then you put them in industry where there is no research and development, nothing. The only emphasis is on to make money for the short term. So when you have this system, this self-defeating system, you're not going to have any innovation. You're not going to have any inventions. Those students, those young people who want to innovate, who want to uh, invent something, they have only one choice: leave the country and go somewhere else and work as a second-class citizen somewhere, or maybe not even a citizen, maybe a green card holder for 20, 30 years. That's the system. That's the deal. How will the system be improved? The system will improve when we will have better leadership in the country. Shishir Upadhyay says, my opinion on psychedelics. My opinion is that they seem to be interesting. Um, Experience? None. I have no experience with psychedelics. Um, my opinion is that they could be interesting. There are multiple people, very prominent people who seem to have had positive experiences. Steve Jobs is an example. He took what? LSD he took or something? LSD is a psychedelic, isn't it? LSD or something that he had taken. Um, Steve Jobs, we know he's the founder of Apple, co-founder of Apple with Steve Wozniak, and he founded Apple when he was pretty young. And before he founded Apple, he spent some time in India. He came to India in search of wisdom and knowledge and all that. And he wanted to meet Neem Karoli Baba, but Neem Karoli Baba had passed away. Then he absorbed all kinds of various experiences and knowledge from India. He also dabbled in Zen Buddhism, and all of that formed his worldview. He became a vegetarian, lifelong vegetarian, etc. And as a young person, he consumed LSD on certain occasions, and he says that it was one of the most transformative experiences of his life. That's what he says. And there are other people also who have reported similar experiences. So it looks like it's interesting, but I personally have never tried, have never had the opportunity to try any such thing, so I can't say. And that's all. But look, I am not trying to advocate for anyone taking such things. It's very possible that these things may have bad effects also. So yeah, that's what I think about this. I don't really know personally about it, but sounds interesting in some ways. But it's also potentially quite dangerous if um, the um, the thing you take, it is not pure or whatever, right? If it's tainted or whatever, it could be very dangerous for you. And even if it's pure, it could end up causing some harm to you. So I have no idea. Swastik Mahesh says, why certain castes historically barred from entering temples before British Raj, despite the fact that caste system was British creation? Listen, there are some temples where women are only allowed, men are not allowed, because of the tradition of the local deity. There are certain temples where women are not allowed, because let's say Hanuman temple or whatever, because of the tradition of the local deity. Now in India, we have the Varna Jati system. The Varna Jati system, it evolved over thousands of years. Yeah. It all begins with the defeat of the coalition of 10 plus kings to King Sudas. So King Sudas conquers the Indian subcontinent. He expels all those clans out of India. And then he does this yajna, and he tells everyone, all the people of India, that you know what? I worship Indra, I worship all these gods, the Vedic gods. But when I do the yajna, your gods are also welcome. So this is the social contract. This is the civilizational contract. We are all one people. Everyone's god is welcome to do the yajna. So that's how our civilization started. Now we had this jati varna system that evolved over thousands of years. You had four major varnas. At times there were seven varnas, as reported by what's his name, Megasthenes. But eventually four varnas. That's what the British classified it as. And you had thousands or tens of thousands of jatis. Now all these gods that were welcomed at the yajna, the sacred fire, the agni of the yajna, these gods came from thousands, tens of thousands of different traditions, folk traditions, local traditions, village traditions, family traditions, and each god has its own preferences. So you build. So if you are in a certain village, you will worship one specific deity who is central to that village and worship nowhere else. But you will say that this deity is an aspect of Bhagwan Vishnu or whatever. But this deity has very specific preferences, and the deity must only be worshipped by the people who consider this deity to be whatever. So you're going to have a temple, and you will allow only those people to enter the temple who are from the village or whatever. It's similar to the Zoroastrians. You go to a Agyari. Agyari is a fire temple. You have Agyaris in India. You have Agyaris in Gujarat. You have Agyaris in Mumbai. You go to a fire temple and see the sign at the door. Non-Zoroastrians are not allowed. So why are other castes barred? Because only Zoroastrians are allowed. That is their tradition. We may not understand their traditions. That's why we should not go in. Do we protest? We don't protest. When you go to Mecca or Medina, it says non-Muslims are not allowed. Do we protest? So why are Indians so hell bent on self-flagellation? Why are we hell bent on self-flagellation? We have the most incredibly diverse set of traditions. Each deity has very specific rules, and we've got to follow those rules. If you don't worship the deity, then why do you want to enter the temple? Leave those people alone, leave the deity alone, right? And it is alleged that certain castes are not allowed in Brahminical temples or whatever. That is not the case. Every caste, every jati has its own temples, and other jatis are not allowed. So Brahmins won't be allowed in so many temples. But today we have to democratize everything. All temples have to be open to everyone. Why? Why? Why can't we respect our own ancient traditions? We don't insist on entering Zoroastrian temples. We don't insist on going to Mecca, Medina, whatever. We don't want to encroach on other people's red lines. So why do we have to encroach on each other's red lines? I just don't get it. I don't get it, really. Ganapati says, did the Indian Independent Act 1947 have certain conditions that we had to agree to get independence? After all, we were given independence under their terms. What could those conditions be? I have no idea. No idea. I think Anuj Dar has more idea than me. And I've had Anuj Dar on my podcast like at least 3 times. But we have not discussed these specific aspects on camera. Or even off camera, by the way. Could there have been certain conditions that we had to agree to? It's possible. Were there some secret clauses in the act or agreement or whatever? It's possible. Do I know those things, those secret things? No, I don't know those things. So it is possible that there may have been certain conditions that we may have had to agree to. It's possible. But now ask yourselves this question. Let's say, hypothetically, that there were some secret conditions that we had to agree to and put our signatures on in 1947. Does it mean that we have to agree to those goddamned conditions today? That's what Indians don't seem to get, right? If we sign the Indus Waters Treaty in 1960, whatever, does it mean we have to keep on obeying that today? If something is not in your interests, are you required to keep following that? You're not. You can walk away from a treaty. The Chinese had this treaty with the British about Hong Kong. One nation, two systems. The Chinese walked away unilaterally from the treaty. They said it's now no longer in our interests to, we will no longer abide by this treaty. They walked away from the treaty. The Americans had signed this JCPOA with Iran, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal. Trump unilaterally walked away from it. So my point is, even if we signed certain secret conditions in 1947, we are under no obligation to abide by those things. And that's something we have to understand. Ritik Pawar says, if China makes a move on Arunachal or Ladakh, what leverage do we have? That's what Russia or the US want, to weaken China and India. If China makes a move on Arunachal or Ladakh, what leverage do we have? We have a military. We have a military. This is not about leverage. This is about a response. Leverage is used in negotiations. In warfare, you don't use leverage, you use weapons. You understand? Leverage is not used in warfare. Leverage is used in negotiations, in diplomacy, in arm twisting, in bullying. That's where you use leverage. If China makes a physical military move on Ladakh or Arunachal, we don't use leverage. We use our military. We use our armed forces. We use missiles, aircraft, tanks, whatever it takes. That's what we do. Okay. So, does Russia and the US want to weaken China and India? Russia doesn't want that. Russia doesn't want to weaken China, and Russia doesn't want to weaken India. Russia will be happy with the status quo the way it is right now. Russia would actually prefer for India to get stronger vis-a-vis China. The Americans would love to have a weakened China and India. But if you give them a choice of who would you like to be weaker, China or India, they would say, let's weaken India right now. It is easier to do than China. So that's a deal. So Russia is not it doesn't want a weakened India. It wants a stronger India vis-a-vis China. But the US would like India to be significantly weaker. And China also would like that. That's a deal. UMX says, PM Modi urges 10-year national pledge to shed colonial mindset rooted in Macaulay's legacy thoughts. I am very fond of decolonization. It's not that I'm fond of decolonization. I'm not fond of decolonization. I think it is a we have an urgent need for urgent decolonization. But what do I think about what Prime Minister has Modi has urged? Well, it's a good thing that he has urged this, but the question is how? How? How are we going to do it? By urging people to do it. To shed the colonial mindset, you have to reform the education system. Is that being done? So, all these slogans are nice and all these pledges and all these exhortations, they are fantastic, great. But my point is, how are you going to make this happen? You can't tell people to decolonize, decolonize. They don't even know the meaning of decolonize. They don't even know that they are colonized mentally. They don't even understand what is the legacy of this Macaulayan thing. What is this Macaulayan thing? Is it the boy from Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin, or is it Lord Macaulay from the 19th century? And if it is Lord Macaulay from the 19th century, what is his legacy and how is it still prevalent in India today? Are we explaining that to the people? So these slogans, etc., we can keep doing that forever. But at the end of the day, the question is, how are you going to make it happen? The people won't make it happen. The people have no idea that they're even colonized. So there we have it. Al Ghanib says, what do you think on big companies world over heavily investing and promoting DEI? It doesn't necessarily boost productivity. Business is all about return on investment. In fact, priority to DEI over merit may adversely impact quality. Let me just Google DEI for the sake of the audience. What is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Principles and initiatives focused on creating fair and welcoming environments in workplaces and other organizations. Diversity means refers to a wide range of backgrounds and identities. Equity means fair treatment and access for all. And inclusion is about creating a culture where everyone feels a sense of belonging. The goal is to blah 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 blah. Okay, that's DEI. It's all about inclusivity and equity and in diversity. You need to have a token black person, you need to have a token yellow person, you need to have a token brown person, and everybody else can be something else. And they must have one gay person, one person with a disability, one person with red hair, one person with blue eyes, one with green eyes, one with yellow eyes, one with brown eyes. 30% should be left-handed, 70% should be right. All that nonsense. That is DEI. And everybody must get a calm, nurturing environment. Everybody should have a safe space to work in. We're talking about Twitter before Elon Musk took over. Girl power, women power. Everybody gets free lunches. Everybody gets their nails done 3 times a day. You can work from home as long as you want. You can come in and spend 30 minutes doing some code, and then the rest of the day do whatever. That sort of thing. What does it do? It destroys productivity. Business is all about ROI. I completely agree. In business, the concept of work-life balance doesn't exist. Work-life balance is nice if you are an employee who works in an organization that is not very ambitious. And work-life balance is okay if you have no ambition as a person personally. You just want to have a safe job. You will put in your 40 hours a week and you will do the same thing every day. You'll get your paycheck and go back home. That's it. But you will never be promoted. You will never be advanced, whatever. You will never work in the cutting edge of anything. So business, if you want to innovate, if you want to be at the cutting edge of business, if you want to be successful in business, you have to ditch this entire concept of work-life balance, of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusivity, all that nonsense. Only hire the best people. Only hire the people who are willing to work like the hardest. If you look at the culture in SpaceX, if you see the culture in Tesla, you will have people working 90, 100, 110 hours a week. Okay. Elon Musk, what he does from time to time, he orders a surge. Let's say you have a rocket that is planned to See, today is what's the date today? Today is the 30th of November, right? Last day of November 2025. Let's say there's a rocket launch planned for the 1st of February 2026. So now I am at SpaceX and I'm about to go home, and Elon Musk comes in. He says, "Why is no one working? Why is the rocket not in good shape? Get all hands on board." He calls up everybody, all the managers, they fly in workers from God knows where. He says, "Okay, today is Sunday night. By Tuesday morning, the rocket needs to be ready for launch." It's physically impossible, but he makes it happen. Nobody sleeps. People work 3 shifts, 4 shifts, whatever. Workers coming from wherever else in the country, they're flown in, and everybody makes it happen by Monday, by Tuesday morning or Tuesday evening. The rocket is ready for launch. And that's how you get things done. So it's not for everybody. It's not for people who are mediocre. It's only for the 1% of the 1%. But that's the only way you will get ahead in business, etc. And DEI doesn't work there. Only merit, only the best people can be hired. So I don't know if all big companies world over are heavily investing in promoting DEI. A lot of American companies do it in a token manner that we promote DEI, blah blah. But these days, it's even that is not being touted that much anymore, right? It was a very big deal during the Biden era. Now that Trump is back in power, no one's talking about DEI. I have not noticed anyone talking about DEI the last few months. So DEI is actually a killer of productivity. It's a killer of ambition. And yeah, if you prioritize DEI, it's going to affect productivity. It's going to affect quality. It's going to impact quality. It's going to impact everything. It's going to impact your your revenues and so much more, your competitiveness. So yeah, that's the deal. Prataradana says, "Have you checked the YDNA heat map website? And shall we make our own team of admix analysis since data is available and can be analyzed in Linux?" I have not checked a YDNA heat map website. What is that? Let me quickly take a look at that. What's this YDNA heat map website? YDNA heat map. What's the deal? Which website are we referring to? Let's see this. The first result in the search results. Okay, it's not opening. Okay, it's open. What do we have? So let's zoom into this place. What do we get here? Okay, I need to search for a specific haplogroup. Let's say we look for HR1A. All right, what do we get? What do we get? Show it. Let's see. It's taking its own sweet time. Okay, I think it's going to take some time, and the page is died. Right, so I haven't checked this. Is it something important? Does it have some new information that's relevant? See, there's when it comes to the Aryan invasion, migration thing, etc. Genetics is not going to provide answers to us. There is no such thing as a pure race, pure lineage, pure whatever. I wonder what my ancestries are like. From what parts of the world I have ancestry. Does it matter? The central question in the Aryan invasion, migration, tourism, picnic myth, the central question or the central claim is that Hinduism and Sanskrit came from outside of India. Now, can that be proved or disproved? That's the thing. The Hawaii DNA heat map, etc., is going to come and go, and it will show all kinds of things. A trickle of this lineage from here, and trickle of that from here, and the Yamna have this. And okay, big deal. I am interested in the origin of Sanskrit and Hinduism. That's all. Was the Rig Veda written in the 2nd century BC or the 7th century BC? When was it written? And where was it written? That sort of thing. Shall we make our own team of admix analysis since data is available and can be analyzed in Linux? Well, if you have the resources to do that, you can do it. I personally will not have the time to be involved in such a thing because I have my own projects that are going on right now, and those take all of my time. But if you have the time and the bandwidth to do that, well, that'll be great. If you can certainly go ahead and do that, right? Vishal Natha says Indian literature exerted profound global effects. Upanishads on the pre-Socratic monists, Greek digestion of Astika and Nastika thought, Latin and Arab digestion of Siddhantas and Jesuit, transmission of calculus and Yogachar Zen. Yeah, no question about it. But Indian literature doesn't ever get the credit for any of this, right? Everybody has absorbed ideas, concepts, etc. from India, absorbed and digested those, and presented all of that as their own thought. Whether it is the Greeks, whether it is the Europeans, whether it's the Arabs actually were the most honorable of all. They did do all this destruction, devastation of India. The Turks did that actually. The Turks did that. But the Arabs were the beneficiaries of all this knowledge that came from India, from the Indian universities and libraries, which was all translated from Sanskrit into Arabic and Persian by various translators like Al-Biruni, Al-Khwarizmi, etc. And they were very clear that all this knowledge comes from India. And they, you know, the title of the books they wrote, the titles of the books they wrote made it very clear this was Indian knowledge. Kitab al-Hisab al-Hind, and so on. So the Arabs were very honorable, at least in this matter. But the Europeans who got the knowledge from the Arabs, they portrayed it as Arabic knowledge or their own knowledge, European knowledge. For example, for centuries, for thousands of years, forever, the Europeans did not have any understanding of mathematics, right? Then suddenly, in the same year, a few months apart, Newton in England and Leibniz in Germany, just a few months apart from each other, both independently discovered calculus. How does that happen? What a joke. It came from India. And you had these Jesuits, the most advanced thieves in the world, the thieves of the Vatican Church. So they were priests who were trained in science, and they were trained in theft. So they would go to various parts of the world, steal knowledge, bring it back, and then it would be used by the Europeans, and it would be portrayed as European knowledge. So yeah, that's been going on for a very long time. And what we need to do is that we need to identify what knowledge has been taken from where, and we need to document all of that. That's what needs to happen. And that's a process that I think has already started. Greek says, do you think that Indian culture and dharmic principles limit us, preventing us from behaving as aggressively as the Europeans do? Yes. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, it's good as well as bad. See, I'll tell you. The Europeans are descendants of the various clans that were expelled from the Indian subcontinent in the aftermath of the Battle of the 10 Kings. Those clans that were defeated by King Sudas were expelled out of India permanently. And they went and settled in Central Asia. Eventually, they would have made their way all the way into Europe. And one of these clans would have been the what are now called the Yamnaya, right? The utterly barbaric Easterners who rampaged across Eurasia and replaced genetically all European males. So they most likely came from India, right? But their actions were definitely not dharmic. The actions were genocide, right? So those are not dharmic actions. So once you shed dharma, you give up dharma, you can do anything you want, and that's how you conquer the world. So those were the ancestors of the Europeans, and the Europeans have behaved in very rapacious ways in the past 500 years, completely adharmic ways. So what does it mean for us? Is our culture, do our dharmic principles, do these limit us? Do they prevent us from acting and behaving aggressively as the Europeans do? To some extent, they do. Indians, you know that we have never colonized anyone. We have invaded various parts of the world. For example, Rajendra Chola invaded Southeast Asia. He invaded Sri Vijaya, but he did not conduct genocide there. He did not colonize these parts of Southeast Asia. He did not extract all the value out of there. He did nothing of the sort. He simply reset the world order in this entire part of the world. That's all he did. So Indians have never been colonizers. We have never been genociders. We have never been extractive, and perhaps that limits us. Perhaps that prevents us from becoming as great, let's say, as the Europeans have become. So what should we do? Should we give up our principles and then take on the world? That's a question. I suppose it's possible to conquer the world even without shedding our principles. It's possible. But if you shed all your principles, if you shed all of that, then it gives you unlimited options. So it kind of does limit us. It does, right? Yeah. Silent Soul says, in dilemma, 22 done BA. 22 done BA. Dad's advice, primary teacher's diploma. Month later, college wants me regularly present. I want to prepare for competitive exams. What to do? Okay, that's a lot of information. 22. In the year 2022, you did a BA. You got a bachelor's degree. Your dad's advice is get yourself a diploma and become a primary school teacher or something. Primary teacher's diploma. So your dad has these expectations that you should become a primary teacher, get a diploma in that. A month later, college wants me to regularly be present. Okay. You want to prepare for a competitive exam. What to do? Competitive exams. Okay, some competitive exams. But the college wants to be regularly present. So you are being pulled in three directions. Your dad wants you to do teacher's diploma. College wants you to be present here all the time. And you want to go in this direction. Three different directions you have. You want to go here. College pulls you here. Dad pulls you there. What should you do? What should you do? So you already have a BA. You want to prepare for competitive exams, which means that you have higher ambitions, higher aspirations. College wants you to be regularly present. Dad says primary school diploma. See, primary teacher's diploma. I think primary teacher's diploma is a very low ambition thing, isn't it? Parents generally want to play safe. Beta, get yourself a nice job, safe job. At least you will have a proper salary. You will not be super rich or whatever, but at least you will not be broke. That sort of thing. So that's what your dad wants. That's what I'm understanding. And college wants you to be regularly present. You want to prepare. What should you do? See, I suppose you can do a primary teacher's diploma even after 2 years, right? So tell your dad, give me 2 years. I want to try this thing. 2 years, 3 years, whatever. If it doesn't work out, I'll go for a primary teacher's diploma and do it. So that deals with dad. Now, college wants you to be present, but you want to prepare for competitive exams. What to do? I suppose you'll have to juggle that. Get some attendance in college and then spend your time doing competitive exams if it is possible. Otherwise, I'm not sure about that, how it works. Otherwise, finish your college degree, then do competitive exams, which may waste more time. Yeah, you're going to have to find the right amount of time for to spend on college and competitive exams. College, you already have a BA, right? So what are you doing in college? So I think I don't have sufficient information also. But I would say that to try and convince your dad to give you 2-3 years for your competitive exams. Yeah, that should be possible. Shivansh says, please search on ChatGPT or any LLM. Which is the one empire that has fought the most battles in India in the past 1,000 years and still continues to live? Okay, let us ask Google's LLM, shall we? Oopsie, daisy, what happened there? Let's find Google. Where is Google? I lost Google. All right. So so Google has its own LLM, right? So which is the one empire that has fought most battles in India in past 1,000 years and still exists? Okay, what is it? What will Google's AI say? It's complex. It involves, okay, I understand what the complexities are. The British Empire, the one global empire that fought a vast number of battles in India, whose core state still exists, is the British Empire. Now the UK still exists. It says the UK. Okay, so what's your point? It says the UK. So the UK is no longer an empire. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Google's AI, whatever it is. Is it Gemini? Whatever it is. I don't agree with what it says. The UK no longer exists as an empire. It's the US that has taken over the mantle of the British Empire. So the British Empire fought battles in the Indian subcontinent, and it no longer exists, but it does exist in the shape and form of the American Empire. So that's where we are. All right. Okay, what's the next question? Where are we? This is by WBR. Have you seen the comparison between Ukraine's pre and post war demographic pyramid? Absolute disaster. Does it have any future? Will it cease to exist? So I'm aware of what's happened to Ukraine. Ukraine's demography has been devastated. Most young males are dead. About 30% of Ukraine's population has collapsed, has disappeared. Let's take a look at what you're saying here. Ukraine, come on. Ukraine demographic pyramid 2021. What's it say? What's it say? Show me, show me. Here we are. Ukraine demographic pyramid. So you have this situation in 2021. Now, what's it look like in 2025? Absolute disaster. So more females than males. Demographics of Ukraine. Which year is this? This is impact of the war. 2023. You can already see that young people have disappeared. Right? Males, females, female surplus significant. You have. Do we have male surplus? I doubt it. So essentially, the deal is that Ukraine has been demographically devastated. Young men are almost extinct in Ukraine. Does Ukraine have a future? It's hard to say. Looks like it's going to be very difficult for Ukraine to survive demographically when all your young males are dead. Of course, children still exist, but what happens going forward? It's going to be a pretty tough ask for Ukraine to survive demographically long term. Your top 5 states that can help make India a tourism superpower. My top 5: Rajasthan, Kerala, Uttarakhand, Meghalaya, UP. I would not give you any 5 top states. I think every state in India has incredible things to offer from a touristic perspective. UP, definitely, lots. Even a union territory like Ladakh has so much to offer from a touristic perspective. Even Manipur is so incredibly beautiful, not just from a natural beauty perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. But it's been devastated by what's happening right now, right? Every state has the potential to make India a tourism superpower. Every state. My question is, why don't the states take it seriously? Why doesn't each state of India have one world-class museum? Why can't every state have just one world-class museum that showcases the state's 10,000-year heritage in history? Why don't we have it? What kind of people are ruling India? That's what you have to ask yourselves. Why doesn't every state have a world-class culinary institute that showcases and develops the state's unique set of cuisines? Why don't we have it? Every state has the potential to be a tourism superpower and make India the global tourism superpower. But the politicians are simply not concerned. Sad. Ganapati says, was Israel actually attempting a genocide or ethnic cleansing in Gaza? You certainly don't have to flatten an entire city just to kill terrorists. Is Israel or was Israel attempting a genocide or ethnic cleansing in Gaza? Well, you see, the problem Israel faces is this. They, okay, see, it's like this. This Israel Palestine thing has existed for a long time, right? The Palestinians want self determination. So Israel gave them that. It gave them autonomy in the West Bank, it gave them autonomy in Gaza. It evacuated these regions, gave them autonomy there. You, they, Israel allowed the people of Gaza to elect their own government. Who did they elect? Hamas, right? So Israel tried its best to implement a two-state solution for the people of for the so-called Palestinian people. The Palestinians went ahead with terrorism. They elected Hamas in Gaza. Hamas went ahead and stockpiled all these rockets, all this arms, ammunition. They constructed tunnels all under Gaza, tunnels that open up into hospitals and schools, and everybody supports terrorism in Gaza. When the October attack happened in Israel, the terrorist attack happened in Israel, it wasn't just Hamas fighters who did the killings. It was Palestinians who were working as helpers or workers or whatever in Israeli territory who also participated in this. All these Palestinians want the Israelis dead. You give them a chance, they'll slaughter Israelis. Now, even if Israel doesn't want to affect the so called civilians, how do they neutralize terrorists who are hiding in tunnels under hospitals, under schools? They deliberately choose hospitals, schools, and all these places to have tunnels. So eventually you can do it and it'll take forever, it will never work, or you just flatten everything. I think Israel has lost patience and they've said that we're gonna flatten everything. If you people survive, that's your good for you. If you don't, that's your problem. We gave you the chance and you guys went ahead with terrorism. Now you pay the price, you pay the consequences. Yeah. Because when it comes to the Palestinians, how does Israel know who is a terrorist and who is not? Essentially, they all are. Now, when the bombs fall, they claim victimhood. But when they see an Israeli being killed on TV or whatever, even the little children cheer. They're all terrorists. And this is the approach we need to have with Pakistan, actually. Instead of us having bleeding hearts for the goddamn Palestinian terrorists. That's what I would say. So I completely support Israel in this matter. You cannot be soft hearted with terrorists. Okay, that's how I see it. You can agree, disagree, whatever, that's entirely up to you. But that's how I see it. Why do Asian ethnicities of Russia, like Buryats, the ones have a higher TFR than Slavic and other European white ethnicities? Is it due to low urbanization? It could be because of that. See, the various Asiatic ethnicities, let's say Mongolic, Tunguskan, Tuvan ethnicity, etc., ethnicities, Buryats, Yakuts, uh, Chuvash, all those people, the Tatars, these folks, they all live in the eastern and central and eastern parts of Russia, the Asiatic parts of Russia, which typically is villages, it's farmland, it's forests, and all that. And if you're living in a farm, the more children you have, the more hands you have to help you out on the farm. But if you live in a city, the entire economic situation is different. The economic paradigm is different. In If you're living in a city, each child is a mouth to feed. It's you need education, you need to provide for education, you need to provide healthcare, all that stuff, and everything is super expensive if you're living in a city. So it becomes a net drain on your on your finances. But if you are living in a farm, if you're living in forest, etc., the more children you have, the more hands you have to work. So it's a total different economic paradigm in farmlands, in rural areas. And yeah, so that's why that clearly is one of the significant causes for the people, Russians, who live outside of metropolitan areas, especially in the far east of Russia, etc., why they have higher TFRs. Definitely. Arav Shah says, I was very upset to hear that there isn't a single highly prestigious Indian physics journal. Our highest impact factor is 2.4. I want to establish one. Could you give me further guidance? You want to establish a high impact physics journal. You want guidance from me. Look, if I knew how to do that, I would have done it myself, right? How do you establish a prestigious physics journal? What is the factor that determines the prestige of a physics journal? You need to have high quality, high impact research being published in your physics journal, which means that you need the top physicists of the world to publish in your journal. Why will top physicists publish in a specific journal? They will publish in a journal, first of all, if it already has a great reputation, if other great physicists have published there. For example, there's something called the Annalen der Physik, where Einstein, etc., have published in the past. So yeah, it's prestigious, so you want to publish there. Secondly, the journal should have a great editorial team, and they should have great referees who will, referee your paper to the highest possible to the highest possible quality. And obviously it has to be in a prestigious nation and so on. So that's how you establish the prestige of a journal. Now let's say you want to establish a journal. You can establish a German journal, but how will you induce the top physicists of the world to publish in your journal? You're going to have to set up a committee of editors. You're going to have to set up reviewers, anonymous reviewers, and so on, who have to be top quality physicists themselves. How will you recruit these people? Right? It's easier said than done. If it was easy, I would have done it myself, but it's very difficult. So I can certainly go ahead and talk to various physicists in the country and say that let us set up a journal together. How many of them will be willing to do it? We already have something called Pramana in India. I'm not sure what Pramana is up to these days, but I have known people who published in Pramana personally. So a prestigious journal is possible only in a country where you already have top quality physics research being done. In India, there is no top quality physics research being done. That's why it's not possible for India to have a top quality, highly prestigious physics journal. It's not possible. So you see, Arav, I completely, I feel you. I've been there. But when you are in a country where there's no significant physics research being done, where you have a terrible third-rate education system and academic system, it's not possible for a prestigious, high-quality journal to exist here. Even if you set up the best journal with the best editors and best reviewers, why will top physicists publish in a country where nothing is happening? Why? The problem lies deeper. It's not the problem of the people who are running journals. And you also have another problem in India: predatory, parasitical journals. I get these emails from these random journals all the time. Please publish your research in our journal. Small publishing fee. Essentially, what they are saying is that you pay us this much money and your research is guaranteed to be published. What's the quality going to be like? So India is one of the top bases for all these predatory and parasitical journals who are minting money by having third-rate research being published in India. So India has developed this reputation, this negative reputation of being the hub of so many of these predatory journals. And what is the government of India doing about this? Nothing. Nothing. And then if you set up a new journal, most people will assume that you are going to be another parasitical, predatory journal. So that is the problem. What guidance can I give you, Arav? I'm assuming that you have a physics background. What guidance can I give you? Go ahead with your physics career, publish high quality research in the best journals that you can find. That's all I can tell you. Without the government cracking down on all these problems, nothing's going to change in India. We individuals can't change things. It's not going to be possible. Bhaskar Bandit says Delhi pollution heat map from satellites shows a lot of parali burning in Pakistan. Is it part of war by other means, along with our own issues? Of course. I think the farmers in Pakistan, they have their own way of doing things. I don't think they're doing it with the objective of polluting Delhi and polluting parts of India. It's just that once their crops have been harvested, all the stubble that's left, what's called parali or whatever it's called, the stubble that is left, instead of wasting time cutting it off and processing it, just burn it, right? If you burn it, it leaves behind ash, which is rich in minerals, which fertilizes the soil. So you're gonna burn everything. It's gonna be a nuisance for a couple of days, and then you have, clean land with lots of fertile ash on it, so you can go ahead with the next crop. So I don't think it's part of a war by other means or whatever. A lot of this stubble burning also happens within our own territories. I mean, if you take off from New Delhi or land in New Delhi, either at dawn or at dusk or at night in the winter time, okay, you're gonna see a lot of fires burning all around, especially west of Delhi, north and west of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana region, right? So that's what it is. A lot of that could be coming from Pakistan, but much some of it comes from India as well. And I don't think it's war by other means. It's just the way they've been doing things for a long time. Okay. Sagar Ghare says, why did the United States continue with a second attack on August 9, 1945, instead of stopping after the one on August 6? Are you talking about cyber attacks? There was no cyber warfare in 1945, was it? You're talking about the nuclear tests on Japan, are you talking about? Let's see what happened on August 6, 1945, just to reconfirm. August 6, 1945, what happened? Hiroshima. So yes, August 6, 1945, the United States tested a nuclear weapon on the people of Hiroshima in Japan. And 3 days later, subsequent to that, they tested another nuclear device on the people of Nagasaki in Japan. So why did the US conduct a second test in Nagasaki after the first test in Hiroshima? Well, because the Japanese Empire had not surrendered. So after Hiroshima, Japan did not surrender. So the Americans did Nagasaki, and they said, now you surrender, otherwise we'll do a third one. So that's when Japan surrendered. That's the simple reasoning. Amisha says, your views on modern day feminism and masculism. I haven't heard of this term masculism, but feminism, yeah, I know feminism. Modern day feminism is, see, feminism, it emerged for the right reasons. It emerged in the United States in the 19th century, roughly. And why did feminism have to emerge from this place? It's because women had second class citizen status. They did not have property rights. They were the property of their husbands. They did not have any voice in society. They did not have any role to play in society. They did not have property rights. They did not have legal rights. They did not have right to property. And they were second class citizens. They were the property of their husbands, and so on. They were very badly abused and marginalized in society, in American society. It's all because of what we have discussed in the past few days. You know, how the Christian doctrine, Christian ideology, Christian religion treats women. So that's why feminism had to happen, so that women could get basic rights like equal rights, right to vote, right to own property, and so on. But then from the 1950s and 60s onwards, feminism was hijacked by the left. And then feminism became a supremacist religion kind of thing. So modern day feminism is not about equal rights. It's about superior rights. It's about putting men down and making women superior to men. So that's what you see in societies like the United States. The United States has become a gynocentric society. Women are the bullies now, and the men are the oppressed. That's what's happened in the US. Perhaps it serves them right, whatever. My point is, feminism, it belongs in a certain context. It belongs in the context of nations with Abrahamic perspectives that have historically, and perhaps even now, oppressed women. When you talk about non-Abrahamic societies like ours, polytheistic societies, with a very different approach to the roles of the two genders, feminism doesn't belong here. Feminism doesn't have any relevance here. We have never oppressed women. We have never marginalized women and done whatever. So feminism has no place actually in India. But because of Western education and all this nonsense, feminism is now a thing in India also, women's rights and all that. Women have never been deprived of rights in India. In some cases, in certain roles, women have more rights than men. In some, so it's we are a different civilization, and we are not an oppressive civilization. We have never oppressed women. So the way I see it, feminism has no place in India. Yeah, that's how I see it. And feminism is today, modern feminism is all about, you know making women superior to men, and essentially taking revenge for the patriarchy, that sort of thing, which is nasty. We don't need such things in society. That's how I see it. Okay, King Ritwik says, what infrastructure no, sorry, what development does Arunachal need so that we can shut up China? Should we focus on tourism, roads, and infrastructure in Tawang, Mechuka Valley, Itanagar? What if you want to shut up China? It's not about shutting up China. Please understand this. This is not about a war of words where you shut somebody up. This is about the real and present danger that China, which is 4 times more powerful than India, can perhaps make a move on Arunachal Pradesh and invade and annex the territory. It's not about shutting up China. It's about preventing such an eventuality from becoming reality. That's what needs to happen. So, how do we make it happen? We make it happen by augmenting our military muscle. That's what needs to happen. We need to augment our capabilities, military capabilities, whether it is the number of missiles that we have, the kinds of missiles, and types of missiles that we have. Do we have bunker buster ammunition? Do we have various kinds of ballistic and cruise missiles? Do we have subsonic cruise missiles? We do have supersonic cruise missiles. What about hypersonic cruise missiles? Do we have sufficient numbers of aircraft squadrons? Do we have sufficient high quality aircraft, maybe fifth generation aircraft, maybe 4.5 generation aircraft? Do we have all of these things? Do we have the right amount, the right number of satellites that we need to cover the entire Tibet region and beyond, Arunachal and whatnot, to know exactly what's happening day or night along the border, the line of actual control? Do we have all of these things? Do we have a sufficiently strong force posture south of the India-Tibet border in the mountainous regions? Do we have the ability to deploy in 6 hours, or will it take us 6 days to deploy our armed forces when we give after we give the order? How rapidly can we deploy our forces in forward positions? Do we have a cold start capability along Arunachal? And then you ask yourself, do we have enough roads and all those things? That's what we need to do. Roads, yeah, sure, we need more roads, etc. And that's also a work in progress. Okay, Adi Ayu says, just clicking on share and commenting once after the live stream ends will boost the channel growth a lot. Request to viewers, thank you. Well, Adi Ayu, thank you so much. I request all viewers to share and comment after the live stream ends, and please like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, I never ask for any of these things, but yeah, please do that. So Adi Ayu, thank you so much for reminding me to remind the viewers of this. Please do that. It will help the channel a lot. As you all know, my channel is now capped at 248, 249,000, what, 948 or 949,000 subscribers. YouTube or somebody in YouTube has decided that my subscribers should not grow beyond that. So anyway, if you do these things, then maybe it'll help. So please do that. Please help out. Thank you so much. All right, next. Biju Saikia says, Indian politicians love to call themselves nationalists, but it's opposite when it comes to US leaders. How did it become such a negative word in Europe? Nationalism is bad, patriotism is good, that sort of thing, right? I still don't know what's the difference between nationalism and patriotism. Apparently, nationalism is bad because it gives rise to fascism and whatnot. So if you're European, nationalism is bad. I don't. Is it a bad thing to love your country? Is it a bad thing to want your country to prosper, to progress, etc.? Is it a bad thing? Or should you want all countries to prosper and progress? Does it work like that in the world? It's never worked that way in the world. Everyone has wanted their country to prosper and progress, and nations always compete, as we know. Look at what the US is doing. Look at its actions. These are hyper competitive actions. Look at what the Chinese are doing. Hyper competitive. So if the top powers do that, why should the other powers not also play the same game? So You see, how did this become such a negative word in Europe? It's after the Second World War that nationalism becomes a bad thing, because nationalism gave rise to the Nazi ideology and the fascist ideology and so on. Um, and after the Second World War, when it comes to Western Europe, the United States became the major power in Western Europe. It became the hegemonic power in Western Europe, and it did not want any of these nations to have new seeds or sprouts of nationalism and patriotic thought. So it said, create a EU, dissolve your borders, dissolve your currency, let's have a common currency, that sort of thing, which eventually happened. And yeah, no nationalism. So that's how it became a negative word, because it's associated with far right ideologies. And Indian politicians, yeah, that's right. But when it comes to American leaders, well, today you have the slogan, right? Make America great again. That's a very nationalistic slogan, by the way. So, Hyphen says, been watching you since 2021. Well, thank you. That's when I started, regularly posting on the channel. So, thank you so much. You changed my life in a way. Wow. Okay. I can think more clearly now. Thank you. Miss your science episodes, by the way. All right. First of all, thank you so much. I really appreciate your having been a long time viewer. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I could have some kind of a positive impact in your life. Um, and when it comes to the science episodes, we're gonna do a space special next week. Okay. So next week we'll do a space special, maybe science special, in which you can have space also. So let's bring that back once in a while. I'll do that. Anyway, thank you so much, sir. Thank or ma'am. Thank you. Chirag Srinath says, I have I have my questions. What is your opinion on the nuclear sector being privatized in India that was announced this week? I haven't seen this news. I haven't seen the announcement. If the nuclear sector is being privatized in India, well, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing. What does it mean? Let's take a look at the news so that we understand what the parameters of this privatization is. Parameters are nuclear sector privatization India. Let's see. What's it say? India. Okay, let's see. Times of India. India's nuclear policy. Prime Minister Modi announces plans to open nuclear sector to private players, pushing next generation reactors and innovation. Boost energy security, technology advancement, increase nuclear power capacity significantly by 2047. A new bill will be introduced to facilitate this major policy shift. Follows the successful opening of the space sector to private players. We are moving towards the nuclear sector as well. We are laying the foundation, etc. Create opportunities in small modular reactors, advanced reactors, and nuclear innovation. We have an ambitious goal of scaling India's nuclear power capacity to 100 gigawatts by 2047. Right now, it's 8.8 gigawatts, so more than 10 times increase. Okay. What else do we have? The Atomic Energy Act 1962 bars private companies, even state governments, from participating in this sector. Okay, so it doesn't say much. It says that we're gonna open up the sector to private players, private industry. Well, good. See, if you want to be a player in this industry, let's say you want to build small modular reactors, you're gonna have to invest a few $1 billion into that. It's not cheap. So it's only gonna be the biggest private players who are gonna be able to participate in this thing. Understand that. But it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We have very big uh, very big players in the Indian private sector who could certainly take this forward. So it's good, in my opinion. Without the private industry getting involved in this, we can't scale from 8.8 gigawatts to 100 gigawatts. So I hope this is a great success. Biju Saikya says, why most of humans became monogamous? Why did humans become monogamous? So that we have stability in society. See, about 10,000 or so years ago, we moved from, maybe 15,000 years ago in the subcontinent, we moved from being hunter gatherers to agriculturists, right? So when we were hunter gatherers, our populations were very small and we lived in very small bands of people. And in that case, the polygamy, that sort of thing could have worked because, the strongest guy rules everybody else. Maybe he passes on his genes and others don't, that sort of thing. But when you have settled societies who settle down in one place, set up villages and towns and have big farms, and you have to live together for your entire lives, you can't have clashes and strife in society. So, for that stability in society, you need monogamy. Maybe kings can be polygamous or whatever, but most people have to be monogamous. Otherwise, you're going to have clashes and fighting and whatnot. So I think that's why once you made the transition from hunter gatherer lifestyle to sedentary lifestyle and pastoral lifestyle, that's where this change happened. And it made sense. Chirag Srinath says, what is the stark difference between Sun Tzu and Chanakya in the way they shape policies in China and India, the effect they have today in the respective countries? See, I have shown this in the past. Where's the Arthashastra? Okay, I'm not sure where it is. I'll have to look into it. One second. Give me a second. You see, this is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. As you can see, it's this flimsy little book. Flimsy. How many pages? Let me see. 63 pages in this version, which is the full version of the Art of War. It's a flimsy little book of stratagems. What is a stratagem and what's the difference between a stratagem and a strategy? A stratagem is a trick. Excuse me. It's a clever trick. A strategy is a totally different thing. So Sun Tzu's book is a book of stratagems. It's a book of clever tricks. Chanakya's Arthashastra is this massive book. I'm sure I've got it somewhere here. But the point is, it's this massive book. It's about how to run an empire. Completely different thing. You can't compare the Arthashastra with this thing, this little thing. Okay. So, huge difference, massive difference. Sun Tzu is a set of tricks. Has Sun Tzu's has the Art of War shaped policy in China massively? No. China has not been influenced merely by Sun Tzu. It is the West that has been enamored with Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is one of the texts in China. China has been more influenced by Confucian ideology, teachings, etc. They've been influenced by various Chinese thinkers in warfare and whatnot. Sun Tzu doesn't really figure that prominently in Chinese thought. When it comes to Chanakya, Chanakyan thought obviously has formed the backbone of India's empires, whether knowingly or unknowingly. But today, Chanakyan thought is absent in India. I would say that Pakistan practices Chanakya Niti better than India today. Right? So, yeah, that's the thing. So, Sun Tzu and Chanakya are very different. Their works are very different. You can't compare the Arthashastra with something like Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Little flimsy little book. So I would encourage everybody to at least, if you're interested in these things, try and read these texts. Try and see this little book. I'm sure if you buy it from a roadside shop, you can get it for 50 rupees or something. Tiny little book. The Arthashastra may be more expensive, but try and acquire these books and read them. Try reading them, right? Very interesting and very important to try these things out. Okay. Do you agree with Musk's claim of Putin being the richest man? I have no. Did Musk really claim that? I haven't seen this claim. Do I think Putin is the richest man? I don't think he's the richest man. So yeah. So if Elon Musk has claimed this, I don't agree with him. Okay. Hyphen says, can you start a series where you pick a great man and or a woman each episode and do a full episode on Einstein, Newton, etc.? Doesn't have to be a scientist. Certainly a great idea. There's so many great ideas out there that I can implement. Yeah, I could make a list of 100 super influential people, the most influential people in human history from my perspective, the top 100, and do an episode on each. I could certainly do that. See, right now I have a set of projects I'm working on, writing projects. I've been speaking the past 4 or 5 years, right? I have written nothing. I should be the one writing the most books in this country. So right now I'm focusing on writing, which is why it will not be possible for me to start these series right now. The next, let's say, 12 months, I'm going to focus full time on writing. I'm going to continue these live streams and all that. But until I have a, 2 or 3 books out, I'm not going to start any new big project like this. If I can find the time, I could do it. But I don't think if I'm writing 3 books in a year, which is the goal, then it's going to be possible at this point in time. But it's a great thought. It's a great idea for a series, and it's something I should certainly do. So thank you so much for the suggestion, and I think it's one of the best suggestions I've got. So thank you, and I will do it sooner or later. So thank you so much. Biju Saika says, have you ever read any of Stephen King's books? In 2002, I spent a few months in the United States. I was working as a cyber coolie. Okay. And it was pretty strenuous work, 12 hours plus a day you're working. But whenever I got some time, I would go to a shop called Borders. I don't think Borders even exists anymore. It used to be a bookshop. And over there was a sale, and I acquired this big fat book called Bag of Bones by Stephen King, hardcover. It was on sale. I got it for $5 or something. And over the course of a week or something, whenever I could snatch some time, I would read that, and I finished the entire book. And yeah, it's kind of disturbing in parts, and it does have creepy moments and stuff. So yeah, it was a very well written book, no question about it. It starts really slow and then it pulls you in, that sort of thing. Bag of Bones, perhaps Stephen King's bestseller, or maybe not. I don't know. It's the one book I've read. I've also read some other book more recently, but I can't remember what it was. So yeah, I've read a couple of his books. The first one that I do remember very well is Bag of Bones. I've got it somewhere in the house. Right. Raju. No, Rarun Raj. Okay. Whatever the name is. Should we have banned Google Street View? Many views are looking bad and racists are using that as points. Feel this is regulated in the Western world, like Paris only shows clean stuff. China, Russia, Afghanistan, Egypt, some Africans don't have it. Look, if you're a filthy country in some parts of the country, what's the point of hiding it? I don't think we should ban Google Street View. If you want to ban stuff, ban it entirely. Look, if you have been to Paris, you will know that Paris is mostly super clean. You go to London, you go to Milan, you go to Berlin, you go to Frankfurt, you go to London, way cleaner than India, right? And now there are some cities in India which are super clean also. For example, if you go to, I don't know, if you go to Surat in Western India, it's way cleaner than, for example, other cities in India. So India also, you have some cities that are super clean. But if you look at the average situation in India, it's not very good. I mean, if you take Delhi, for example, the capital city, there are parts of Delhi that are super clean, super neat. And there are parts of old Delhi where you don't want to go because they're not clean. So my point is, look, even if you ban Google Street View, you're going to have tourists coming to India looking for those things. They're going to post it on YouTube. Now you're going to ban them too? The solution is not banning stuff. The solution is improving your standards. Now we can't do it. The government is in charge of doing it. So my request to the government, to the governments, is that please get your act together and do what you're elected for. Right? Okay, Biju Saikya says, do you think horseshoe theory correct? I don't know what the horseshoe theory is. Let me try and Google it. What is the horseshoe theory? What is the horseshoe theory? Political concept suggesting that the extreme left and extreme right of the political spectrum are more similar to each other than the center, like the ends of a horseshoe. I don't know. Are the extreme left and the extreme right, are they similar? Both tend to be authoritarian, but both tend to have very different perspectives on what to do. So I'm not sure if it's really correct. I'll have to obviously put more thought into this before I can say yes or no definitively. But it doesn't look like it's very correct, because both extreme right and extreme left tend to be super authoritarian, but their ideas, ideologies, and desired outcomes are very different. So I'm not sure that it's correct. Didin Slonter says, I'm MSc Physics, addicted to alcohol in lockdown, going far area for drinks. I have friended local alcoholics. One day a labor, one day a labor close alcoholic broken my leg, fingers, bedridden for 2 months. Should I make a move on him with my friends as I am now well? Okay, so you are MSc Physics. You became addicted to alcohol during the lockdown. You go to faraway areas for drinks. You made friends with local alcoholics. One day a labor close alcoholic broke your leg, fingers, your toes, and you were bedridden for 2 months, and you are fine now. And you are asking whether you should make a move on him with your friends because you're well now. I would say, you know what I would say. Uh, what I would recommend is end your friendships with all alcoholics and stop doing alcohol and forget about taking revenge. Move on. Put all of this in the past. Put all of this behind you. That's what I would recommend to do. I know it's easier said than done. It's easy to give advice, but since you asked for advice, I have a very clear rule. I don't give advice unless someone asks for it. But since you're asking for advice, I would say end your friendships with all alcoholics. If you don't change the kind of people you hang around with, you can't change your habits. So whoever your friends are who are alcoholics and who are keeping you hooked to alcohol, end your friendships with them. Break off relations with those people. Don't go and make a move on this individual. Forget about what happened. Just make it a thing of your past. End your relationship with alcohol. Stop drinking alcohol and go get going with your life. That's what I would recommend you do, sir. All right? That's my honest, sincere recommendation to you. I hope you do well in life, sir. Please get your act together. All the best. Rarunjar says, India should block visas to the guys like bald and bankrupt who only come to India to show bad things and mint money. His whole channel promotes hate. I suppose if there are channels, if there are individuals who only come to India for these negative purposes, then those people should be blacklisted. There are lots of YouTubers who come to India and show the good as well as the bad, which I think is fair enough, right? But if there are people who only want to do this poverty tourism and whatever this some of the people do, those people should be blacklisted. I agree with you. So whoever this person is, and I'm sure there are others too, such people should be blacklisted. No question about that. The Chinese would not tolerate this, neither should we. Okay, why is Japan always fighting Russia over useless islands but follows orders from country that literally nuked them? Your opinion on Anna Chapman spy incident? Anna Chapman was this Russian lady, this red-haired lady who was a spy in something. I don't remember the details. So yeah, it's been a while. She was imprisoned in the US and then exchanged with some other spy who was from Russia, right? That sort of thing. Okay. Why is Japan fighting Russia over useless islands but follows orders from the country that literally nuked them? The country that literally nuked Russia, are they friends with Russia? I'm sorry. The country that literally nuked Japan, that big, powerful country, is it friends with Russia or is it enemies with Russia? It's enemies with Russia, right? And Japan is controlled by the US, who is enemies with Russia. So the US will use Japan to needle Russia. Doesn't it make logical sense? You see, Japan doesn't merely follow orders from the United States. Japan has been under permanent military occupation by the United States since 1945. The US has more than 130 permanent military bases on Japanese soil. What option does Japan have? Japan has to do whatever they are told. So if they are fighting Russia over useless islands, which you see as useless, maybe the Americans are making this happen. And maybe the islands are not useless. Or maybe there's a whole history behind that that you are not aware of, which is why you see it as useless. On my channel, please search in the search box Kuril Islands and look up the history of this matter before calling the islands useless. All right. See, when we don't know the history of a dispute, we may think it's a pointless dispute. Oh, it's a bunch of islands. It's this, it's that. Please try to take the time to understand the history, understand the reason for this dispute. Then you will understand that maybe the islands are not useless. Maybe they are very valuable. All right. Okay. Um, Krish, Krishai EX says, why has socialism failed in many countries? Excuse me. Why has socialism failed? Socialism is destined to fail everywhere because socialism seeks to achieve equality of outcome, not equality of opportunities. That's why it's going to fail. But one place socialism hasn't failed is China, because it's not really socialism. See, in China, there's something called Xi Jinping thought today, which is a continuation of Maoist Leninist thought and Mao Zedong thought and Deng Xiaoping thought and whatever else thought. Now it's called Xi Jinping thought, which is an extension and elaboration of all of that. And if you study Xi Jinping thought, it'll say that we have to be firm on Chinese on socialism with Chinese characteristics, etc. But it's not really socialism anymore. So socialism is all about equality of outcomes, which doesn't work anywhere, which is why it's going to keep on failing. Rarun Rajar says, at what point does geopolitics become history? And history can be considered to be geopolitics. What's the time limit? We discuss internal matters of other countries. When does internal politics become relevant for geopolitics? See, geopolitics becomes history. There's no hard and fast rule. If I'm discussing something from, for example, the 1990s, is that history? Well, technically, it's history. But if you want to discuss the Ukraine war, you have to discuss what happened in the 1990s. So it's kind of a continuing problem. So it's the boundaries are kind of vague. It's like the boundary between classical and quantum physics. I mean, I can actually give you a very clear definition of where quantum physics starts, but when it okay, we'll not use that analogy because that's too technical. The point is, there's no clear delineation of where geopolitics starts and history ends. That sort of thing. Maybe 20, 30 years you can take as a rough guiding principle. Yeah. We discuss internal politics of other countries. When does internal politics become relevant for geopolitics? Internal politics of a nation becomes relevant for geopolitics when it starts affecting other countries. As simple as that. There's an election in the US, it's an internal matter. But the regime changes, a new president comes, and he changes all the rules of the game geopolitically. Well, then the internal matter becomes relevant geopolitically, globally. You see? So when internal matters of countries start becoming external problems for others, that's where internal politics becomes relevant for geopolitics. So yeah, that's the deal. So geopolitics and history, I would say 20, 30 years as a rough yardstick, but not necessarily always going to be correct. Ansh Divu says, please explain Indian genetics frozen in time for 1900 years. Does it imply strictly enforce endogamy, caste system, or any other genetic hoax like AIT? Indian genetics frozen in time for 1900 years. Who is saying this? It looks like, so when we talk about endogamy, does it mean the caste system? Endogamy doesn't mean the caste system. It means the Jati Varna system, which is different from the goddamned caste system that you are taught and that is now enforced, the four castes. The Jati Varna system, I think it became more solidified during the Gupta era. And that's what genetics kind of seems to show to some extent. That we have endogamy among the Jatis that starts sometime around the Gupta era. See, the thing is this. any any highly functioning society or civilization is going to be highly structured, and it's going to be highly structured. It's going to be stratified. If you look at the Wikipedia definition of civilization, it says stratified society, right? So when you have a highly ordered society, it means that it's got all these specializations and intricate division of labor. All the different things and aspects and goods and services that you need for a functioning society, you will have lineages dedicated to that. So one family line or one jati does, for example, a certain kind of industrial practice, or produces, maybe manufactures ships. Somebody else does metal work, somebody else does goldsmith work, somebody else does textile work. So they will keep all those things within their clan, and they will not share the secrets with others, otherwise they will lose their competitive advantage. And that's why they will marry among each other, that sort of thing. So that is something you see in every civilization, every culture in the world. You see that everywhere. So it's not a caste system thing or whatever, it just makes sense, and now it's been destroyed. Was it strictly enforced endogamy? It was like, because of societal norms, eventually it became that way. It's not a genetic hoax. So that is how this thing happened, and that's an inherent a characteristic of any advanced society. Okay, WBR says, was having a family conversation about an Indian king, phone kept nearby. Later, YouTube started recommending shows and videos of what on the king. Considering the data is stored in the US, does Uncle Sam have the ability to create a civil war in India? Now, that's a totally different thing from what you're saying, but it's kind of relevant. See, I've got my phone here. I'm talking. It's listening to everything I say. It's on silent right now. It listens to everything I say. You're having intimate connections with conversations with family or whoever. You got a phone nearby. It's listening to everything. It doesn't mean some person is listening, but the system is listening. And if your conversations have words that trigger certain flags, it's going to have certain effects. Maybe you start getting recommendations about a king, maybe something else. So because of these things, because all of this data is stored in the US, whether it is whatever, Android, Apple, whatever, it means the US regime has all kinds of information about everybody in India. They may have secrets about us, and God knows what else. So if they want to create a civil war, they can do it. Short answer. A Fast Snail, love the name. Do you foresee any repercussions from the West post Putin trip? Depends. I would expect that the Putin trip, that President Putin's trip to India, which is going to happen soon, it could perhaps be momentous in the context of the India-US relationship, India-Russia relationship, and overall geopolitics. If major new deals are signed by the two countries, maybe hypothetically the Sukhoi 57 fighter, fifth generation fighter plane, maybe something else, maybe other kinds of cooperation, then it's gonna clearly have repercussions from the West, right? So if it makes India, Russia, if it benefits India and Russia in a big way, and if it brings the two nations closer together, the Americans will be upset about this, and even the Chinese will be upset about this. Even the Pakistanis will be upset about this. Pakistan doesn't matter. Pakistan just does whatever their masters tell them. But the US and China will be upset. So there's going to be repercussions. So obviously, all of this will be factored into the calculations of both Russia and India. Ganapati says, was European colonialism a Jewish initiative? Columbus was a Jew. It was a Jew called Isaac de Pinto that convinced the British Crown to colonize India. So I am not aware of this Isaac de Pinto. Let's take a look at this person, Isaac de Pinto. Pinto. That's interesting. Isaac de Pinto was Portuguese Sephardic Jewish origin. One of the main investors in the Dutch East India Company. Okay. So what do we have about this guy? So he was a major investor in the Dutch East India Company, not the British East India Company, right? So it's well known that that various Jewish persons were major money lenders, etc., in Europe, and they financed many initiatives of the kingdoms that they were subjects of. Many of them would lend money to the crown to finance military expeditions, maybe other things, other projects. Columbus was a Jew. He may have been perhaps a Jew. I'm not sure. So was all of this European colonization a Jewish initiative? I think it's a little too far fetched to say it was a Jewish initiative. The Jewish were the financiers of many projects, not merely colonization projects, but other projects also. So I think it's a little far fetched to say that everything, all of this was like a Jewish initiative. All of this, that they goaded the Europeans to go and colonize the world and destroy the world. I think it would be a little far fetched to imagine that. Purushottam says Virat is the greatest ODI player. What are my thoughts? Look, now cricket is super controversial. I am very clear about where I stand in cricket. I have been observing cricket since what? I was never a fan of cricket when I was a kid, okay? But I spent a few years in Europe, etc. When I came back to India, everyone plays cricket and nobody wants to play football, so I had to learn how to play cricket. And nobody was willing to give me a bat in my hand, so I had to learn how to bowl. So I became a bowler. Became a pretty good bowler, and I've been watching cricket since what? Since the 1990s, early 1990s, and I remember all of what I've watched. So is Virat the greatest ODI player? No, he's not. Nah. Vivian Richards is the greatest ODI player, batsman. Vivian Richards is the greatest of the ODI batsmen. You have no idea the kind of bowlers he played against. Okay. So I disagree. Virat Kohli, no, no, thank you. I'm not saying he's not good. He's great. I have been a great fan of Virat Kohli, especially his captaincy style when he in the 2010s. Especially the way he played against the Australians in Australia, the way he led the team against Australia. And his batting, I mean, one of the greatest of all Indian batsmen, no question about that. One of the greatest of all time, but not the greatest of all time. I would say Vivian Richards is the greatest of all time. And I have seen a lot. So that is my perspective. And I'm sure before Richards, there were players that I am not aware of, I've not seen, but yeah. VSVS says, what are the biggest mistakes India is making today that could haunt us in 2050? Not reforming the education system, not focusing on research and development, not reforming fast enough, not focusing on excuse me, not focusing on manufacturing sufficiently, not focusing on the cutting edge technologies like AI and the space race. These mistakes could haunt us by 2050, right? The education system has to be reformed the way I have explained in episodes 29 to 28 to 32 approximately of the Ask Abhijit show. Nothing is being done. India will remain mentally colonized if that happens, and so on. So, and we have to take the lead in the space race, or at least be a major participant in the space race. We have to be a major player in AI, in semiconductors, in manufacturing. We have to spend more of our GDP on defense right now, maybe 5% of our GDP on defense for the next 10-20 years perhaps. And we have to we have to cut down on all these wasteful yojanas. These things, otherwise all of these things could haunt us in 2050. We have to expel all the goddamned foreigners from India who are squatting on our territory illegally. 100 million Bangladeshis possibly. I don't know how many lakh cookies. I don't know how many lakh Pakistanis. Why are they still on Indian territory? Why are we feeding them and their children? Why? These things need to be addressed urgently. Fast Snail says, should Hindus despise Ashoka as much as invaders? Very controversial topic. Look, Ashok did a lot of great stuff, okay? He unified the entire subcontinent. He retook, no, he did not. His grandfather knew that. His grandfather retook Gandhar from the Yavanas. But Ashok, he propped up this, he took this obscure religious sect called Bodh Dharma, and turned it into a global force. So, should Hindus despise him as much as invaders? I'm not sure. I think Hindus should individually decide how they feel about Ashok. I think it should be. I think it is not my place to tell Hindus what to think about Ashok. Hindus should know the facts and decide individually on their own. Uh, Rarun Rajr says recent exchange. Good. Recent change in the way Twitter functions or X functions has revealed that many of the US and Indian political accounts were based in Pakistan. No wonder there was so much hatred towards Indians. But in other social media, it's been pushed as everything is Indians. So, yeah, many of these hateful accounts were spewing hatred towards India and Indians and Hindus. Most of these turned out to be based in Pakistan. So, today, if you look at a Twitter account and if it says South Asia, it means it's either Bangladesh or Pakistan. Because nobody in India will put their region as South Asia. But Pakistanis and Bangladeshis want to hide the fact that they're from Pakistan or Bangladesh. So you have the choice of either setting your location as your country or your region. And the region is if you don't want to choose your country, you can put your region as South Asia over here. It should be the Indian subcontinent, but why would Elon Musk do that? So he has put it as South Asia. So a lot of these accounts, hateful accounts, are based in South Asia, which means mostly Pakistan or Bangladesh. And they have created this big narrative, this anti-India narrative on social media, and they've been very successful. And this is a game that two can play, but India has chosen not to play the game. The government of India has not invested in the social media war at all. We're just like sitting ducks. It's only the citizens who are fighting on their own, right? The government of India has chosen not to weaponize social media the way the Pakistanis do, the Chinese do, the Americans do. We are Satyamev Jayate. We will play by Gandhi's principles, right? That's what the government of India believes in. Sad. Okay, R. Rahul says, my hypothesis, there is no singularity if density of an object crosses a limit. Its interaction with Higgs field becomes weaker to save space-time. To save space-time? Okay. So if your interaction with the Higgs field is not weak, then does it eat space-time or destroy space-time? I'm not sure. How are you saving space-time? I'm just trying to understand. Look, what's the Higgs field? What's the Higgs boson? Right? The God particle. You all have heard of the God particle? The God particle. Let me explain what this thing is. Is it a God particle? So in the 2010s, around that time, the Higgs boson was finally discovered in the Large Hadron Collider. It's the one discovery the Large Hadron Collider made. Anything else of significance. And because of that, Peter Higgs finally won the Nobel Prize after more than 50 years after he proposed this theory of the Higgs boson. So the Higgs boson is this particle that is also a field. So see, in quantum field theory, there are no particles. There's only fields. There is a universal proton field. There's a universal electron field. There's a universal neutron field, and so on. So there are 17 fundamental particles. So there are some 17 fundamental fields. And what we see as a particle, a proton, electron, whatever, these are merely localized excitations of the field. Now there's a Higgs field. Okay? And if a particle interacts strongly with the Higgs field, then it has more mass. If a particle interacts weakly with the Higgs field, it has less mass. And some particles don't interact with the Higgs field. They have no mass. They are massless particles. Okay? So the stronger the particle's interaction is with the Higgs field, the more massive it's going to be. So that's why the proton interacts more strongly with the Higgs field compared to the electron. So you can see why the proton has more mass than the electron. So the Higgs field is what imbues particles with mass. That's what the Higgs field is, and that's what the Higgs boson is. A Higgs boson is a localized excitation in the Higgs field. Now, okay, so now your hypothesis is that if the density of an object crosses a limit, its interaction with the Higgs field becomes weaker to save space time. So now that we understand the Higgs field, you will see that there is no connection between the Higgs field and space time. The Higgs field is a quantum mechanical phenomenon, quantum field theory phenomenon. And space time is general relativity. These two don't mix and match. They don't mix and match. Quantum mechanics is incompatible with general relativity. No physicist has been able to reconcile the two theories thus far. You try, it's gonna throw up weird stuff. It's gonna crash and burn. Doesn't work. So, considering what we just discussed, I'm not sure how density of an object. See, when we talk about fundamental particles at the quantum level, we don't talk about particle densities. We simply talk about particle mass, typically in giga electron volts. In electron volts, not even in in kilograms. So we don't talk about particle densities. And when we talk about a singularity by definition has infinite density. All right. So yeah, see, if you have a hypothesis, it's good to have it, but you need to formalize it mathematically. You need to formalize it mathematically. You have to create a toy model or something and play out the mathematics with the known physics and see if it really works. So physics is not expressed in terms of words. Physics is expressed in terms of equations. That's the only way physics works. I can explain to you physics by using various kinds of analogies, but real physics is done with mathematics and equations. Pratham Soni says, any specific habits to raise our standards? Admire you a lot. Thank you very much. Okay, any specific habits to raise your standards? Okay, one habit, one requirement, I would say. You want to raise your standards, first start with the physical body. If you want to raise your standards, I recommend you should walk minimum 20 kilometers per week. Very specific minimum limit I'm giving you. You should walk a minimum of 20 kilometers per week. Ideally, you should walk more than 30 kilometers per week. Is it possible? 20 kilometers per week, 7 days, 7 3 it's less than 3 kilometers a day. It's nothing. I can walk 3 kilometers in like 15 minutes, I would say. Now, maybe 20 minutes. You can definitely walk 3 kilometers in half an hour. Definitely. Right? So you should do that. That's one. Walking 20 kilometers a week should be a minimum thing you should have. And if possible, lift weights at least 2 to 3 times a week, not more than 5-6 times a week, not more than 5 times a week. So that's another specific habit that you should have. What else? Spend a certain amount of time every day reading. Maybe half an hour, read half an hour a day, write half an hour a day, something or the other. And there's much more. I mean, I cannot tell you everything off the top of my mind, otherwise. But yeah, these are some of the things you should do. This walking habit. How many of us have it? That alone can make us way healthier than what we are right now. And yeah, okay. So I'll keep it at that at this point in time. Maybe I should make a video about list of habits for raising your standards, perhaps. Yeah. Okay. Rarun Rajar says, even my remote village is in street view by a bike guy. Yeah, India is penetrated. There we have it. Yuvraj Chib says, if we travel at the speed of light, the distance shrinks. How is it possible? Can you please explain how this phenomenon takes place in space-time? You can't travel at the speed of light. You can't. You are a massive object. You have a body, physical body. If you are an average male, you would weigh what, 60, 70 kilos? Yeah. So if you have a mass of 70 kilos, you can't travel at the speed of light. If you have a mass of even 1 gram, you can't travel at the speed of light. You can't. Why? Because of special relativity. The faster you travel, the more massive you become. Okay, and that can be, and how do we know this? Because of the Lorentz transformations. What are the Lorentz transformations? Very simple. It's something you learn in the, I think, first lecture in special relativity. Lorentz transformations. Transformation. So what's it look like? Okay, there we have it. So gamma is the factor that comes in everything, and because of this factor gamma, you have you have length contraction, and you have, you know, mass which increases as you travel faster. So if you travel at relativistic speeds which are significant fraction of the speed of light, your mass increases. So if you're shooting a bullet that has a weight of a mass of 1 gram, but if you are shooting it at a significant percentage of the speed of light, the mass will be way more than 1 gram. The faster it goes, the more massive it gets. And you have length contraction. So if you have a ruler, let's say it has a length of 1 meter, and it's traveling at a significant for percentage of the speed of light, it's gonna shrink, right? So how does it happen? I cannot explain to you in words. I cannot explain to you with analogies. I can only show you the equations, and you have to understand how the equations work and how they have been derived. There is no other way of explaining it. The only way to explain this is through mathematics. So look up the Lorentz transformation, the thing that I just put on the screen. Try and figure out how it works. And if you are able to do that, then you will understand how it works. Now, Rohan Suneja wants to ask me the same question multiple times. How did Scandinavia become so prosperous? Look, I don't have the answer to this right now. I think you've asked me 2, 3 times before in the last 2, 3 live streams, but I haven't studied this part of history in detail. So I won't be able to tell you how did Scandinavia become so. It is reasonably prosperous. It's not as prosperous as the United States. It's not as prosperous as other countries, but GDP per capita is pretty good actually. So they've done a good job. But how did they do it specifically? I'm not sure. So right now I can't answer. Sorry. Feminist Slayer says, "Is it possible to follow a timetable perfectly?" It is. If you are a perfectionist person, you can. But do you want to? So you see, when you go to school, you have a timetable, right? If you go to school 8th standard, they will give you a timetable. First lecture, first period is this, second is this, so and so time the period starts, so and so time it ends, so and so time you have a 20-minute break. Then the next 4 periods, what time does the school end? Ding 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 ding, they'll do. They follow timetable perfectly mostly, right? It's possible. As an individual, you can create a timetable for yourself for whatever you're doing. You can follow that also perfectly. The point is, do you want to do it? See, everybody is different. Everybody follows different patterns. Everybody has different ways of approaching things. For some people, you need timetables. For some people, you need time blocking. For other people, you need systems and so on. So it's certainly possible to follow a timetable perfectly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned, sorry, I don't know your name. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. So you mentioned that you have no idea if we have AI in the army. Oh no. No, we do. To some extent we do. Just wanted to say that we do have it in the military research, and it's used recently. Trust me. Well, I'm happy. I see, I don't have sources in Pakistan and so on, but I know some people who are associated with the, connected to the Indian Armed Forces. So there is certainly some AI in the army. Yeah, some AI. I'm not see, we don't have the kind of AI the Americans have. Okay, we have some AI systems in the army, and it will not it will definitely not be at the level of the Americans. But it's not like we don't have AI in the armed forces. So yeah, I agree. Okay, UMX Glow La Haha says, I tell people Macaulay's legacy still shapes our mindset, but they brush it off as irrelevant today and claim it doesn't matter in today's world. See, most people don't want to think. For most people, thinking is hard work. Thinking hurts your mind. We just want to believe whatever we have been told to believe, and we want to live with that. We don't want too much change in life. Routine is nice. Life is comfortable. We want to stay comfortable. We talk about Macaulay's legacy, then we have to wonder what is Macaulay. We have to study Macaulay's thing and do the impact analysis of what of his actions in today's world, and then we have to change our habits and change things. So they'll say no, 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 there's no need to do anything. Irrelevant, nothing. And most people in India, they are super sheep like. They defer to authority. The authorities, your teachers, your leaders, your media personnel, your entertainers, your TV news anchors, your favorite politicians, they all say everything is good today, right? So people will believe all that. That's the problem. Kiran Mori says Russia has offered Sukhoi 57 and Sukhoi 75 to India. Well, yes, they have indeed offered these. Now the question is, are they offering full technology transfer as they are claiming, or are there some other conditions that we may have to look into? And what are the price points? All of these things will have to be looked into. But I would say that, if these things are being offered, we should take them. Swastik Mahesh says, if Operation Sindoor continues, will the government focus on taking some territories of Pakistan like Sindh merging with India, as said by Sri Rajnath Singh ji? Look, the way I see it, if there is a war, even if it's a 3-day war, it is pointless unless territory changes hands. We're not playing a football game here, right? 7-3, 4-2, or whatever. I destroyed these many planes, you claim to destroy these many planes, but I have more, so I win. That's not how you fight a war. The objective of war needs to have, there needs to be very clear objectives, political and military objectives. And the only way to shut the whole world up is by taking territory. So that's what needs to happen. The next time there is a conflict with Pakistan, territory needs to change hands. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. So I'm glad Mr. Rajnath Singh ji has said whatever he said, but let's make it happen. Yes. Okay, Satellite says, when we say motivation is bad because it's temporary, but what if we take that same motivation recurring systematically? By the way, thanks for existing. Thank you so much. um, see, motivation recurring systematically. Why do I say that motivation? I don't say motivation is bad. I say motivation doesn't work because, like you say, it's temporary. What is motivation? Motivation is an emotion, right? You watch a YouTube video in which some guy gives a very emotional speech with fantastic, epic music. So you feel all motivated. Yes, the emotion is there. After half an hour, gone. Where's the motivation? It's gone after half an hour, right? But what if you take the same motivation recurring systematically? So it means every half an hour you watch that speech. You're going to waste your time, don't you think? Watching those speeches every half an hour, or maybe playing that epic music every half an hour. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You have to create systems. And you have to follow the systems no matter what your emotional state is. Whether you're feeling great, whether you're feeling low, whether you're feeling motivated, whether you're feeling completely deflated, whether you're feeling strong, whether you're feeling weak, doesn't matter. You follow the system. That's what you have to do. You cannot rely on emotions. If you make a system of it's like it's like taking drugs every half an hour. I mean, imagine how bad that is. Or it's like drinking coffee every half an hour. Eventually, the coffee will stop having an effect on you. Then you will need higher and higher doses of coffee or whatever else you're doing. You see, that's why motivation doesn't work. It's like a drug. Follow systems and ignore your emotions. Transcend your emotions. That's how you succeed. Dark Knight says, conquering adharmic peoples and civilizations will in the long term benefit themselves and all of humanity. Being aggressive against adharmic civilizations doesn't contradict our values. See, one of the ways of looking at our values is is that ahimsa paramo dharma, right? Ahimsa paramo dharma means ahimsa, non-violence, is the greatest objective of dharma. Now, how do you achieve non-violence? Tell me. How do you achieve non-violence? How do you achieve a state of peace and non-violence? You achieve that by destroying all violent people. So to achieve a state of peace and dharma, you have to first destroy the adharmics. Ahimsa paramo dharma. So I don't think that contradicts our values, does it? All right. VS says, who do you think is the most competent Indian PM to date? Prime Minister Modi. Of all the prime ministers we've had thus far, Prime Minister Modi is the most competent one we've had. No question about it. Okay. Balki today says, what is Lord's Prayer Stone of Kanad? Why is it weird? When Lord's, see, I don't know anything about Christianity, okay? But let me see. What is Lord's Prayer Stone of Canad? Canad? What's a Canad? Lord's Prayer Stone of Canad. Are you saying Canada? It's some kind of rune stone with Lord's prayers, Swedish runes. Okay, I am not aware of. Oh, whoa, what happened? One second. Oh, sorry, I did not put the thing on the screen. Here we have it. So, Lord's prayer stone of Canada is a Vava rune stone, slab of bedrock, etc. But with some Swedish runes, 17th century Swedish runes. I'm not aware of this, so won't be able to answer unless I do the research right now. Not sure about it. Godliness says the colonial imprint is in ascendancy. Netflix and Amazon are the new tools. English is still the prime attraction. The future looks hazy for our civilization. Have we crossed the curve of no return, the threshold of no return? Have we crossed the event horizon? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But we need to course correct urgently. We have various state governments who are saying that we are very proud to announce that we are now making English language education compulsory and all that nonsense. If we continue like this, we are doomed. So we are close, I would say, to the point of no return, to the event horizon. And if we don't course correct soon, very rapidly in the next maybe 5 years, we're done. Fast Snail says, despite technological advances, there's no permanent cure for cancer. Are priorities messed up or is it deliberate? Is Mars more important? Don't mean to be philosophical. Most likely various cures for cancer do exist, but those have been suppressed. See, the Western pharmaceutical industry is all about maximizing revenue. It's not about curing people. It's about cultivating patients who are recurring patients for their entire lifetime. It's an exploitative business model. You don't cure people. You turn them into lifelong customers for various drugs and treatments. So if someone discovers the cure to cancer, that will have to be suppressed. Otherwise, it's the end of the story. How will you make money then? So I am pretty sure that various cures to cancer do exist, but those have been suppressed in the West. The Russians have come up with a cancer vaccine that seems to be doing very well in Russia. So maybe now suddenly multiple new cures for cancer will emerge in the West potentially if the Russians start distributing the cancer vaccine to the countries. Then the West will have to now step in and say that, no, you know what, we are better. So yeah, you're not being philosophical, you're being practical, and the world is very evil. You see, that's how it works. Ritik Pawar says, "Who's the worst PM India ever had?" Look, now you're trying to put me in a spot. Okay, I will tell you who's the best prime minister we had. It's Prime Minister Modi thus far. Who's the worst? No, no, no. I am not answering that question. I am not getting into those controversies. I've had enough controversies for now. Who's the worst prime minister? I would say, well, no. No. I am not going there. Ritik, sorry. VS says, do you think India will be able to redeem itself if we have stable leadership with reforms? Absolutely. Not see, stable leadership is a necessary condition, but it's not a sufficient condition. Just stable leadership with reforms will not pull us in the right direction. We need strong visionary leadership, which is also stable. A leader who is willing to take big risks and make very unpopular choices. That's what we need. Stability, anybody can provide stability. But you need a leader who is not only able to merely provide stable leadership, but also very strong leadership, which means doing things that are unpopular in the short term. That's what we need. Those sort of reforms. If we have that, then yeah, anything's possible. Kiran Mori says, Safran offers jet engine tech to India. Take it. Pay whatever it takes. Acquire it. Right? So I'm glad it's happening. Okay, we have crossed 3 hours. Okay, please, everyone, stop taking super chats because I need to now at some point in time end this stream. It was supposed to be a 2 hour stream. It's already 3 hours. So yeah, okay. Manpati says, don't agree on Israel, but a pleasure listening to you. Absolutely, sir. We don't have to agree on everything. All right. We can agree to disagree. At the end of the day, we are in the same boat. And I think overall, we are going in the same direction. We want to go in the same direction. We all want India to do great. Right? We can disagree on other things here and there. Whatever. It's fine. But thank you so much for being a viewer. I value you and I appreciate you and all of you. Thank you. Nayutika says mass immigration to the West is a social experiment based on the Cloward Piven strategy and negative income tax theory by Friedman to enable basic income. There are all kinds of social experiments that are being run in the West. I'm not sure about the Cloward Piven strategy and Friedman's negative income tax theory. I'm not sure about those specific strategies or whatever. But mass immigration, I think there's a UN paper on that, replacement immigration or something, and that was published quite a while ago. Let's see this. Okay, UN. Oh, there we have it. I think Google is listening to me. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. So, replacement migration. When was this published? The year 2000, and that is being implemented today. So as you can see, many of these things are not conspiracies. These are actually well thought out, well planned out things. So I'm not sure about the Cloward Piven strategy and Friedman's negative income tax theory, etc. But yeah, there seems to be, a push towards the direction of eventually having universal basic income, that sort of thing. Even Elon Musk keeps talking about that. So maybe that will be rolled out soon, or reasonably soon enough in the West. We'll see. Rishil K says, with growing tensions between the US and China, Germany and France are doing war preparations and conscription. Do you think Western people will be able to go to war like they did in the Second World War? Will the West be able to go to war? Will the Western European nations be able to go to war like they did in the Second World War? I think it's very doubtful. In the Second World War, during those times, there was a strong sense of national identity and patriotism and nationalism, whatever you want to call it. Today, significant percentages of the populations of these nations, Western European nations, are of foreign origin. They don't give a damn about the country. If the country is in a state of war, you may have a civil war that breaks out in the country. So I don't think the people of the West will be able to go to war the way they did in the Second World War. Now, why are Germany and France doing war preparations? Why are they doing conscription? Who do they want to fight? What threat do they face? They claim that Russia is a threat. Is it a threat? They are simply warmongering. Russia has no intention of going and conquering Western Europe. What absolute nonsense is this? So it is all this warmongering, and all of this is done at the behest of the overall overlord of the Western Europe region, which is the United States. And if there's a real war situation, I don't think the people of Western Europe will be able to go to war. But see, if there's a war with Russia, between NATO and Russia, it's not going to be a people-to-people war with trench warfare and all that. It's going to be a technological war. And so you may not need that sort of conscription and mobilization. Okay, Godliness says Kashmir, Bengal, Manipur gone. Districts like Mewat and some in Kerala are kind of mini Pakistan. Northeastern states are completely cut from our civilization. What next? Delhi. See, Kashmir is a gone case, almost, you could say. Yeah, demographically. Bengal, it seems to be going in the direction potentially based on what one hears. I'm not sure. Manipur is not gone yet, but yeah, if we continue things the way they are, Manipur will also be gone. Manipur still has a significant Hindu population. But the way they are being treated, they are feeling alienated. They're feeling like the country doesn't care about them. The government doesn't care about them. The government cares about the Cookie Land for Christ issue more than the indigenous Manipuris. It looks like that, right? So I don't know. The government of India needs to get its act together. We need to evict all illegal infiltrators from India, whether it is Manipur, whether it is Assam, whether it is whatever part of the country. Evict all illegal infiltrators immediately. Next 2 3 years. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, so there's a urgent need for these things to happen. Devanam Priyadarshi says, is India allowing private players in nuclear energy sector safe? Is it state owned in China? It is state owned in China and Russia mostly. Why? What if foreign private players misuse it? So I think we need to set the rules of the game. Let's say we allow private players, but we can decide what kind of private players are allowed. Will we allow foreign private players in India in the nuclear energy sector, or will we allow only Indians? Because if we allow foreign players, then there is the very high chance of infiltration of this very sensitive sector. So it's all going to depend on the rules of the game that the government establishes. Um, so I am okay with private players as long as we have very stringent security standards, and we ensure that the private players are Indian. And if we allow foreign private players, we need to be very clear about safeguarding various things, about ensuring there is no espionage, there is no infiltration. We get the technology that we need, but we don't allow access to our state secrets and all that. So it has to be done very, very carefully. Okay, Aditya Saik says, explain about Attila the Hun. Why is he demonized? Attila the Hun. Well, he's demonized because he was not white. Attila came from the east. He was a Hun. See, at the same time when the Huns were trying to invade India during uh, the time of the Gupta Empire, at the same time the Huns were trying to invade Rome. And the Huns, they came from the east. They originated in the region where you today have Mongolia. So they were not white people, they were Easterners. So when Easterners come and attack Europe, they're obviously evil, right? How can a non-white people try to attack Europe? How can they do that? Europeans are superior, white people are superior. So that's why he's demonized. And he was very successful. He was very successful. You know what he did? He came to Europe with elephants. He crossed mountains with elephants. The Romans were shocked out of their wits. So that's why he's demonized, because he was very naughty. The major naughtiness was not being white. Minimalist Maverick says, what's with this OnlyFans body count culture? Indian girls' obsession with Korean and American boys. Is this brain rot created by various three-letter agencies? Oh, most likely it is. Most likely this brain rot is engineered, has been engineered by various three-letter agencies. OnlyFans is this disgusting thing that is now a mainstream part of Western culture. I suppose it may be accessible in India too. Then you have body count culture. Once again, degeneracy. Then Indian girls' obsession with Korean boys. I mean, these Korean boy bands, if you look at those singers, first of all, you don't know what they're singing. It's a foreign language that you don't understand. Secondly, you can't tell the person's gender, whether it's boy or girl, or what on earth is this boy band nonsense? Korean boy bands and all. So it's just designed to rot everyone's brains. UMX Glow Ha 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 says, we were supposed to get AMA episode this week. Ask me anything episode this week. So what am I doing right now? What am I doing right now? Is this not an Ask Me Anything episode? What is this? What am I doing right now? I have been doing this for the past 3 hours and 10 minutes. You all have been asking me anything, right? I'm not sure what you're complaining about, sir. Mama Bucket VFX says, how do you stand firm and always speak from pure self-perception and self-validation without bending to others' perception or needing external validation? Thanks. I I don't know, just be yourself, I suppose. Be yourself. Don't try to please others. I think people pleasing is a tendency that everybody has to some extent. And you have to train yourself to not do that, I suppose. Be yourself, be authentic, be who you are. See, if I do a live stream for 3 hours, I can't act, right? There are plenty of people on YouTube who act, who pretend to be something that they are not, but they do it because they read from scripts, right? They make these recorded videos in which they speak about various topics that typically get the material from chat gpt, and then they have chat gpt write a script for them, and then they read out the script from a teleprompter, so it looks like they're being very natural, etc., but they're actually being parrots. That's what news readers do, right? News readers on various big news channels, they typically read from teleprompters, but it looks like they're being very natural. But you ask them to do a live stream, live telecast, and speak spontaneously, they're gonna fumble, mumble, and mess up. So if you do things live, then you have no option but to be completely authentic and completely who you are, because you can't pretend to be something fake for 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever. So that's what I do, and that's why I always do everything live. And how do I do it? I don't know. I'm just being myself. I don't know. I don't know if there's any secret to it. The secret is very simple. Don't lie. Don't pretend to be something you're not. Just be yourself. Whether it is good, whether it's bad, whatever it is, be authentic. That's all. Right. Jagjit Midha says, in the Sri Lankan civil war, RAW's role is often highlighted, but CIA, ISI, and other roles are rarely discussed. Can you explain how various foreign agencies shape the conflict and their shifting interests? See, I'll tell you what. We are told that the LTTE was this Hindu organization, right? And they came up with these tactics like suicide bombing and cyanide capsules and whatever, terrorism, etc. But what you're not told is that the leader of the LTTE, Velupillai Prabhakaran, was a converted Christian. His entire family was Christian, and they were, and there was this Nordic country. Okay, I think it was Norway that was deeply entrenched into this LTTE affair. Okay, Norway, LTTE, Norway. The Norwegians, yeah, they claim to be peace facilitators, etc. Right? Norway. And see, Norway is, as we know, it's a vassal of the US. And the Norwegians, so you see, when it comes to these agencies like the CIA, etc., they will not get involved directly. They will get involved through intermediaries. So Norway was the intermediary, and yeah, they were the facilitators, they were the intermediaries, and they were apparently in the peace process, etc., involved in the peace process for more than a decade. So that's what I can tell you. I've not studied this in detail. I don't know exactly specifically how the CIA, ISI, etc., they shape the conflict, the shifting interests. Overall, India was drawn into the conflict, and India did not do a good job at that. The IPKF was not given a proper. The entire thing was botched. See, when you send a peacekeeping force, it's supposed to have a very clear time-bound military objective or a set of military objectives. And when you send a professional armed force to do something, it has to have time-bound military objectives, clear military objectives, missions. But the IPKF was sent as a police force, which led to a complete disaster and fiasco. So that's what happened. It's not the fault of the Indian army; it's the fault of the Indian political leadership of the time, who messed up so badly. And of course, other agencies would be involved, but what the details are, I'm not quite sure. What I know about is the role of the Norwegians, who acted as intermediaries of the larger power. UMS Glow Haha says, "What state are you from? How does it matter?" I think you can look it up. You can look it up what my background is, what my family lineage is. I think it's very easy to find out what state I could be from, right? Come on. Okay. Maharana says, which ancient idea feels most modern now? Which ancient idea feels most modern now? I don't know. Ancient ideas, modern ideas. I live in both worlds. Which ancient ideas feel most modern? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think some ideas are timeless, aren't they? Some ideas are timeless. I think. What do we mean by modern? First of all, um, modern. What do we mean by modern? Something that's. Do we mean technologically? Do we mean it's cool? Do we mean it's something else? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't have an answer to your question. Okay, Rarun Rajar says security problems of Street View. It's infiltrated a lot more places in India compared to others. See, security problems of Street View is that if you are a terrorist from Pakistan and you want to, instead of coming to India and doing reconnaissance, if you want to target some city in India, then you can simply go to Street View and look at the map and spend a few hours understanding the topography of the street, the kind of shops you have, and so on, and you can do a good job without ever setting foot in a city. So that's a straightforward security problem of Street View. And a lot of the shops establishments are clearly visible. So in case someone wants to do a theft in your shop, then I suppose they can find out ways of doing it from Street View, etc. So that's the deal. UMX Glow Haha says, "Do you smoke and drink occasionally?" Listen, I'm not answering these questions. It has no. Uh, it doesn't provide any value to the audience, and these are personal questions. So I will not answer either yes or no. It's none of anyone's business. I don't have any. It's none of my business asking you whether you smoke, drink, or do whatever. And the same goes the other way. So there we have it. Om Sushant Bharadwaj. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ritik Pawar says, "Is Venezuela on the brink of collapsing?" Maybe. See, Trump has said that he has declared unilaterally that the airspace over Venezuela is closed now. Yeah. I mean, is it legal? According to international law, is it allowed what he just did yesterday? Where is the United Nations? What are they doing? So the US seems to be on the brink of doing something in Venezuela. Maybe it will collapse. It looks like that. Yeah. Suga says, "I want strength to follow and protect my dharma. For that, I need enough protein. Chicken, cheap way for me to hit my intake. Rig Veda and Atharva Veda don't ban chicken, but Garuda Puran have punishment for it. What to do?" The Rig Veda is the answer to your questions. It is the foundational text of our culture and civilization. If the Rig Veda says there is nothing wrong with it, please go ahead and do it. That's your answer. Don't overcomplicate things. Consult the Rig Veda. If the Rig Veda is fine with it, you can do it. All right, there we have it. Snag says, "Russia, Ukraine, is this a war of attrition?" All alone. It's kind of become a war of attrition, right? Slow war, frozen conflict, never-ending warfare, that sort of thing. But there's a reason for it. Why is Russia okay with the war going on for years now, when they have been in a position for the longest time to flatten Ukraine if they wanted to? They have the firepower to flatten much bigger, much more powerful countries. After all, the Germans said that the Russians are the biggest danger for Western Europe, right? Which means that the Germans are claiming that Russia is powerful enough to defeat Western Europe. Then why is Russia stuck in Ukraine? That's the reason for it. Russia is allowing this war to meander so that it drains the resources of the West, especially Europe. And that's why. Right? Anant Bharat Varsh says, "Many foreign writers claim the Ashwamedh ended with the queen mating with the horse. Is this true or a distortion of our culture?" So you will find these claims in English translations, and not all English translations, some English translations. So it most likely indicates that that's a distortion. It indicates that the translator has taken liberties with his translation of the original Sanskrit. So to set these claims to rest, what you have to do is take the time to learn Sanskrit and then read the original. Then you will know for sure what the deal is. Okay, it's always translations into English or European languages that raise these issues. It's never translations into Indian languages from Sanskrit that make such claims. So that should indicate something to you. Sankar Chillukuri says AI advancement, will that lead to communism? Recently, New York recent mayor election populism proved to be popular. No, that has nothing to do with AI advancement. That is because of a societal shift. Because the average person in the US now has more sympathies towards socialism. That's why you had the election of Mamdani, right? Gadsa would call it suicidal empathy or whatever. So I don't think it's because of AI whatsoever. It's because of the cultural shift in American society. The education system has put this virus in their heads, this sympathy for socialism, which is why the standards are nosediving in the US. Nutan Roshan says, "Oh Arya, West seems to be very superior to us. Right now, is there anything or tech that we have now and is superior to the West apart from culture? At least a thing? No." Ask yourselves, what does India produce that the world wants or needs? What? Ask yourselves this question, honestly. I'm not asking about India's potential. I'm asking about what is India doing right now? Do we have something that is superior to the rest of the world apart from culture? That's a very hard question to answer because there's no good answer to it. Right now, we are nowhere superior to anybody anywhere, to the West at least. That's the truth. And that needs to change because we have the potential to be the best. But all we do is slogan, 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 Vishwaguru, 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 superpower, superpower. Slogans will take us nowhere. Things have to change. Siddharth Sharma says, are you following news about the interstellar object 3I Atlas? There are 13 anomalies presented by Professor Avilub. What do you think about it? See, Professor Avilub is a scientist with a very solid reputation and a very credible background. So if he says something, you would take him seriously. Now, when we look at the data given out by NASA and official space agencies, they will tell you that everything is fine with AI 3I Atlas. Nothing anomalous at all. But Avi Loeb says that there are anomalies. So if there are anomalies in the way this object is behaving, then it's been covered up by NASA, etc. So there are two possibilities. Either NASA is covering up the anomalies and saying everything is fine, even though it's not, or Avi Loeb is over-representing what's happening. These are the two possibilities. Now, I don't have a telescope here with which I can observe what's happening. I can only rely on information that is secondhand to me. So I have the choice of either believing NASA or believing Avi Loeb. I'm not quite sure where to go right now. So can't say. I think the only way we will find out if something is really anomalous is if 3I Atlas makes a U-turn and comes to Earth and then says, "Hey, we are here. We come in peace." Otherwise, can't say. But yeah, it's a very exciting time that we have these interstellar objects that are entering our solar system, and it would be nice to see real-time live coverage of what's happening. But we don't have it. Maharana says, which unforeseen experiment most profoundly shaped history, not by intention but by consequence? What? Which unforeseen experiment? Which unforeseen experiment most profoundly reshaped history? I think one of the most the printing press by Gutenberg. Yeah, it suddenly brought literacy to the West. I mean, how come India did not invent the printing press? What was wrong with our people? We did not invent the printing press. Seriously. Is it something very high tech? So that's one thing that, that brought very rapid literacy to the West. And it profoundly reshaped history. And that probably was not the intention of Gutenberg. He only wanted to print Bibles, but it had a very different effect. So, yeah, maybe that. Apurva Aditya says, no matter how much I try, I just can't bother attending classes in college. I can't find my interest. I'm losing interest in everything. What can I do? Look, you're not losing interest in everything. You're losing interest in everything that's being forced upon you. You clearly have interests, but those are not in line with what you are expected to do. So, what can you do? Well, you have tough choices in front of you, sir. You can either force yourself to attend your classes and get your degree and then go and do a job that you don't like, or whatever it is that interests you, you can try and make a career out of that, which is a hard path, which is the path of entrepreneurship or being an artist or something, whatever it is. I don't know what your path is. So you have these two choices. One is do what is expected. Be unhappy in life. Go attend classes, even though you can't find anything interesting. Go pass your exams with whatever grades you can, even though it's not interesting to you. Then go apply for a job and then do a job 9 to 5 or whatever, and whatever. That's one path. The other path is whatever you actually find interesting, because clearly there'll be something you find interesting in life. It's not like you have no interest in anything at all. There will be things that you find interesting, that you'll be passionate about. But can you make a career out of that? That's the question that you have. If you can do it, you'll be happy. Otherwise, you have to make a compromise in life and go along the path that is expected. Right? So you have to find your way in life. You are at this crossroads right now. Yeah. All right, sir. I hope you make the right choices and get what you want. All the best, Apurva. Vipul Pawar, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. What kind of language is this? Yes, you cannot use such language on my channel. This is good channel. You can't use Russian slang terminology here. It's very bad, sir. You can't do this. Okay. In Alaska meet, I realized that only the US, Russia, and France have a presidential plane which is indigenous. Even she uses Boeing. Isn't it interesting? What's my detailed opinion? That's a very interesting observation. The Americans have Boeing or whatever. That's an American company. The Russians have their own aircraft manufacturing companies like Yakovlev and Tupolev and many others, I suppose. So President Putin would probably fly in one of those indigenous planes. France. What aircraft does Monsieur Macron use? Macron aircraft. Let's see. Coton Unité. Oh, it must be Airbus, right? It must be an Airbus. Okay, it's an Airbus. So once again, it's French. Oh, yes, of course, the French have Airbus. So yeah, so these three countries, their heads of state have indigenous aircraft. Xi Jinping has to use Boeings, and Prime Minister Modi probably uses a Boeing aircraft, right? That's very interesting. So the Chinese will soon have an indigenously developed aircraft for their president, because they are working very hard. They already have certain airliners, jetliners that they've developed at home, and they are trying to bring them up to international standards. But we in India don't have any civilian aircraft manufacturing program. Maybe in 20 years we'll start something and try to copy what others are doing. We are always behind. India is a nation that lacks ambition. Our leaders lack ambition. That's the problem that I see all the time. Right? We are big on slogans, but we lack ambition. Seriously. The Chinese, when they were at our GDP, they were 100 times more ambitious than we are today. Sad. Vipul Pawar says, is there any scientific basis for the idea that consciousness allows the universe to become self-aware? There is no scientific basis to this idea. None whatsoever. Why do I say this? Because consciousness is not a scientific concept. Why do I say that? See, we are drilling down to first principles. First, I am saying There is no scientific basis to this idea that consciousness allows the universe to become self-aware. Now, why am I saying this? Because there is because consciousness, the concept of consciousness is not a scientific concept. Now, why do I say it's not a scientific concept? We're drilling down further. Because science doesn't have a definition of consciousness. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that there is no definition of consciousness from a neuroscience perspective. There is no definition of consciousness from a physics perspective, from a quantum mechanical perspective, from a thermodynamic perspective, from a general relativity perspective, from information theory perspective. There is no definition of consciousness from a biochemistry perspective. There is no scientific definition of consciousness. We can't even define the thing. Then how can you talk about scientific basis for any ideas of consciousness? You see there? That's the issue. We don't have a definition of consciousness. We know it exists. We know it exists. The moment we see it, we know, yeah, that's conscious. We know it, but we can't define it. That's the big problem. So, and all these theories about, the universe is self-aware, that's called cosmopsychism. That's a philosophical concept. It's not a scientific concept because consciousness doesn't have a scientific definition. Okay, VS says, I don't learn geopolitics. Geopolitics learn me. Chavda. Well, thank you so much, sir, for the very nice thing, for the very nice compliment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Okay, Divine Tiger says, what happened to Sangyokitaji after Samrat Prithviraj's death? I don't know. There are some versions that say that she met a very evil fate at the hands of the Turks. Some other accounts don't make any mention of Sangyogita, what happened to her. So I don't know for sure. I don't want to think too much about it, actually. Yeah. Don't know for sure. Okay, right arm chuck. Right arm chuck. No, chuck is at the elbow, right? Elbow. Okay. How can we be prepared for the future with AI? Become AI native. Learn everything about AI. Learn how to use AI. As an individual, as a nation, as an individual, you learn AI, right? You learn how to use AI, how to talk to AI, how to get AI to do stuff for you, how to prompt it properly. You learn what are the different models, what are their capabilities, which is the best for whatever you're doing, and so on and so forth. That's what you do. That's how you become prepared for the future for AI, with AI. You learn how to use it in your job. You learn how to use it in your industry, in your business. You stay 2 steps ahead by trying to anticipate how it's going to affect or disrupt your industry, your job, your business, or whatever. That's how you prepare for AI. You have to always be prepared. You have to always try and stay a couple of steps ahead. You just always try and anticipate what's happening. That's how you stay prepared for the future with AI. And you should also think about how it's going to affect the future generations and how you can prepare your kids for that. It's in case you have kids. These are the sort of things you do to prepare for the future with AI. If you're a nation, you invest in AI and you set the terms so that you can build the future, the kind of future that AI is going to generate for us. Okay, Ashutosh Kasalkar says, your thoughts on Nilesh Oak G's dating of Ramayana and Mahabharata? Well, I haven't studied that, so I can't say. I haven't studied that. I know Nilesh Oak G. I met him recently. Very nice guy. Very nice gentleman. Very learned person. But I haven't studied his research. He's got multiple books on these subjects. I haven't read any of those, so I can't say. Right? Unless I study in detail, I cannot make any pronouncements whether it's right, bad, good or bad, fantastic, terrible. Can't say. Can't say. I haven't studied. Suga says, what happens to the soul according to dharma after death? According to dharma, after death, the soul goes to a resting place for a while, it recovers, and then it transmigrates to a new body and starts the process again. And then the process goes on and on and on until you detach, the soul detaches itself from the consequences of karma, and by doing so, it can transcend the cycle of life and death and rebirth. That's what happens to the soul after death, according to dharma. Okay. Divnur Singh says, what's the reason Indians become good citizens under authority more than others? Why do major revolutions like French, American Revolution, etc., never come from India? See, Indians come from the most mature civilization, the oldest civilization. And as such, Indians lived under law and order longer than any other society on the planet. So it's in our DNA that we want to be good citizens. We want to live in an orderly fashion. If there is law and order, we want to abide by that. The French, the English, etc., they come from not really from civilization, they come from empire. They've never lived under a proper civilization. What you call Western civilization is actually Western empire today. Civilization is different from empire. So that's why it's more natural. See, why do the Indian police forces, you compare the Indian police force with the French police force. If you go to France, if you go to the streets of Paris, you see the French cops. What do they look like? They look like commandos. They're well built. They've got these automatic weapons. They look like they're ready to fight a battle, fight a war. They can lead an invasion if they want to. Have you seen Indian cops, what they look like? Very different, right? It's because in France, you need that sort of cop to control the population. The population is capable of such violence. The same applies to the US. Walk around New York City. Look at the cops. Cops everywhere. Cops ready to shoot if required, anytime. Now walk around any major Indian city. What do the cops look like? Very different, right? The cops know in India that no one's going to resort to large scale violence. Indians don't do that. Indians are far too civilized. The Westerners have just been tamed from their status as barbarians. And that's why you have this major difference, right? And that's why you don't have such revolutions in India. Because even if a kingdom or dynasty falls, something else rises up in its place, and you have the same system that continues, the dharmic system, until now. Okay. Russia offered jet engine technology with fighter jet. I don't know. I'm not sure. Did it? I think the jet engine technology may or may not be offered. I think the fighter jet technology is being offered. Maybe we'll have to negotiate separately for jet engine technology. As far as I have seen, they have not offered jet engine tech along with the fighter jet, the Sukhoi 57. That may be on the cards if we negotiate appropriately. But the French are going ahead with us with this joint project for a new jet engine. Safran is the French company that's going ahead with us for this, and that will give rise to a new jet engine. All right. Achintya Anand says, during peak Saraswati river flow, I read somewhere that the Ganga plains were very large marshlands and hence less populated. I haven't read this. I haven't. I'm not aware of any such thing, that the Ganga plains were very large marshlands at the time. As far as I know, the Ganga plains where the way the Ganga plains are, maybe the course may be somewhat different, but I have not read about this marshland theory. All right, that brings me to the end finally of the super chats. It's been a very long time, yes? Almost 4 hours. Good God. I had not expected it would take almost 3.5 hours. All right. Okay, there's more super chats. Listen, please do not take any more super chats. I am ending this live stream in 5 minutes. So there are 2 right now. I'll just take 2 and then I have to end it. Otherwise, it's going to end up as an 8-hour live stream. And not for today. So, Suga says, do you think Buddhism is part of Sanatan Dharma or not? It is one of the aspects of Dharma. It is one of the valid philosophical schools of thought or philosophical paths that are part of what we call the dharmic umbrella. So yes, it is. And despite my request, people are taking more super chats. Okay. Divnur Singh says, Yahweh, the Old Testament God, was one of the few gods, but his followers prevailed. Yahweh ordered genocides. He was a war god. How did monotheism come out of that? Look, Divnur Singh ji, I am not any kind of expert in Judaism, in Christianity, in Yahweh, all that. I don't know how many. See, I'm aware that Yahweh was one of the gods in the original form of Judaism. The original oldest known Judaism was not a monotheistic religion. But then Yahweh prevailed, or his followers prevailed, and that's how it went. I don't know about the genocides. I don't know about the war god, etc. Aspect and all that. And but we know that eventually Judaism becomes this monotheistic religion, and the other Abrahamic religions essentially branch out from Judaism. First Christianity and then Islam. That's what I can tell you. Beyond that, I am not aware of the genocide aspect. I've not read their sacred texts, whatever they may contain. So I can't say anything about that. VSVS says, I'm confident that we will reclaim our former glory again. Jai Hind. I am very confident too. But my thing is that I want to see it happen in my lifetime. That's all. I know it'll happen. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Jai Hind indeed. Minimalist Maverick says, is it possible US is making a virus, the top 20 tier 1 humans survive, bottom 80% perish? Is it possible to create such viruses or more advanced? Look, I don't know what the US is doing. Is it theoretically possible to create such viruses? It is. It is. Is the US doing it? I have no idea. Is it possible some nation, X nation, Y nation, Z nation may be doing it? It is possible. Yeah. I think the technology now exists for doing such things. Yeah. Divine Tiger says, I want to learn lethal martial arts, but I'm 30 years old. So, you're not 70, right? It's fine. You can learn. Go ahead and learn. No one's stopping you. You'll need to, get in physical shape for that. But at the age of 30, you certainly can do that. Why not? Go ahead and do it. Okay. That brings me to the end. Very much to the end of today's live stream. So thank you so much, everybody. Almost 4 hours this session. And once again, we have more super chats. Now, what should I do about this? Okay, I will take one last super chat, and this is the end. Vipul Pawar, your super chat is the last one I'll take today. Does physics explain why only the 5%? Does physics explain only the 5% we can perceive? Okay, let me try and unpack what Vipul Pawar is saying. If we observe the universe, we see stars, galaxies, nebulas, and whatnot, gas clouds. So you see all these points of light in the sky, in the night sky. And if you add all of that mass together, it makes up about 5% of the actual mass of the universe. So everything we can see, it's just 5% roughly of the mass of the universe, mass energy of the universe. About 25% roughly is dark energy, which is some kind of particle or family of particles. And about 70% is dark energy. 25% is dark matter, and 75% is dark energy, roughly 75%. And we don't even know what that is, but it's something that seems to be causing the accelerating expansion of the universe. So we are able to only see 5% of the universe's mass energy. And of what we see, that 5%, we have a rudimentary understanding of how it works. Does physics explain everything about the 5% we can observe? No. There's a lot we still don't understand. Okay. So we understand essentially next to nothing of the universe. That's the truth, despite all our physics and technology and all that. So yeah, that's the answer, sir. And Ankita ji, thank you very much, ma'am. I really appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. And with that, I will now finally end this live stream. So thank you so much. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed this. I took way more questions than I had expected to take, but thank you so much. It is a privilege that I have so many questions that I get to field. Others don't get to do that. So thank you so much, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all next week in next week's live streams. Take care, everyone. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.